Good afternoon. The Committee on General Government Operation and Appropriations now reconvenes this public hearing from Friday, June 14, 2024, and is called back to order. Today is Thursday, June 20th, and the time now is 2 p.m. In compliance with open government law, the notes for this public hearing were posted on GovGuam portal, Public Notice portal, GTA Channel 21, Docomo Channel 117, and disseminated via email to all senders and all main media broadcasting outlets on June 5th, June 12th, and June 14th. We have several bills, ladies and gentlemen. 6. To be exact, it's 6. Bill 298, Bill 299, Bill 300, Bill 301, Bill 302, and 303. We'll be hearing all the bills one right after the other. Okay? So with that, I'd ask the author of the bill. Oh, first, physical note was requested on May 13. Physical note was received and disseminated to all senators via email by the Committee on Rules on May 21st. Those participating on Bill 298, which are there. The rules of engagement and speech provide material staff of any document for photocopying and distribution. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for questions or additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Question and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of the general rule of conduct will result in removal from the public hearing room. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from participating and will be escorted from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. You will state your name and your title for the record. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me this afternoon, the author of the bills, Senator Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munoz-Barnes, Senator Roy Canata, and Senator Tom Fisher. And with that, I ask the Vice Speaker to please give her opening statement that hopefully will cover all the bills. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, and many of God's blessings to all of us here this afternoon. Mr. Chair, if I could ask for your permission, please, to give my overview of the funding source for all these measures now, so that the listening audience and those attending today's hearing won't need to sit through repeated information. Is that possible?
That is possible, but before you proceed, I'd like to recognize our congressional delegate, Delegate Jim Whalen. Congressman, do you have anything you wanted to tell anybody, any of the folks? If not?
Yeah.
I mean, the only mic. I mean,
All right,
Jim.
there you go. I appreciate being back in my old home in the 35th and the 36th, and I appreciate my colleagues and what they do. I'm so very thankful when the committees do come into order and that the public comes down to testify. It makes a big difference to the education process, but also how the bill is to be made. So thank you for your testimonies, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, Senators. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman. Vice Speaker, now you can continue on with.
And thank you. I also like to say thank you to Delegate Moylan for literally working closely with the legislature and our oversight to help continue to make a difference for our community and finding resources to help the different agencies as it relates to health, safety, and education. So, for your commitment to helping out our community, our island of Guam. Sainamasi. Thank you, Mr. Delegate. Mr. Chair, about a month ago, Delegate James Moylan announced that Assistant Secretary Carmen Cantor of the Office of Insular Affairs testified during a hearing of the House Natural Resources Committee that the federal government is tracking an estimated sum of $80 million for Guam to receive in Section 30 funds for the next fiscal year. This amount is about $5.8 million more than the governor submitted in her executive budget request for fiscal year 2025. With this in mind, I introduced the series of bills being heard today to earmark this windfall into education, safety, and health agencies and programs with the intention, Mr. Chair, that these appropriations will be able to be included in the upcoming budget session. Colleagues and to the listening audience, we have received testimony from our delegate, and I would like to read part of it for you today and ask that it be appended to the committee report for all of today's bills, as it provides more context and insight into this funding source. On June 18th, Delegate Moylan wrote to the committee of chair. He appropriately reminded this body that the 80 million estimate can still be impacted by the unforeseen activity. As with any projection for future revenue, meaning this figure at this point can still go up or down pending real-world events. But what is driving this windfall, according to Delegate Moylan, is the increase of federal workers on Guam, the payroll taxes of whom make up our Section 30 revenue. As he wrote, one element which is being monitored is the increase in the presence of federal employees and service members on the island over the course of the past year, as it relates to various aspects of the military buildup. This includes the opening of Coast Guard Guam, Sector Guam base in 2023, the activity around the Guam Missile Defense Camp Blas, and both Anderson and naval bases. Federal employees, including those with the Department of Defense, have also had extended stays on the island as part of Guam's recovery from Typhoon Mawar. So the first bill to consider the expected increase of Section 30 for fiscal year 2025 is Bill number 298. And before I do that opening, Mr. Chair, I do want to note for the record, because you did note earlier that the fiscal report was provided by BBMR. So if I may, I acknowledge that the Bureau of Budget and Management Research has shared in their fiscal notes for these measures that when added all together, these bills may, and I say may, exceed the estimated 80 million total for Section 30 by 45,153. For the record, Mr. Chair, I'm fine with either reducing those appropriations by 7,525.50 each to spread the reduction equally, or working with your office and these agencies to adjust their allocations without jeopardizing the investments we intend to make. Mr. Chair, I also want to take note that while the executive branch has not received official notice about any additional Section 30 funds being projected for fiscal year 2025, I also believe that we in the Guam legislature should take the statements coming from our delegate and the Assistant Secretary of Insular Affairs made during a congressional hearing as a credible source of information to base legislative decision on. So I ask that that be included into the record, Mr. Chair, and thank you for letting me add that. Bill number 298-37, which proposes to give $700,000 to the Department of Military Affairs to utilize as local matching funds for the Guam National Guard so it can receive increased federal grants. Mr. Chair, according to the Guard, this greater subsidy will unlock a further $2 million worth of grants for our soldiers and airmen. And as we've seen during the height of COVID-19 pandemic and in the aftermath of Typhoon Mawar, our guardsmen stand at the ready to assist our families with disaster response and recover. I understand that, at least in part, due to the Guard's activation recently for the pandemic and typhoon, any wiggle room in its budget has been utilized, thus creating the need for an additional investment to secure these additional grant funds. Mr. Chair, I do look forward to the testimony from the Department of Military Affairs to lay out how these grants will improve the facilities and programs of the Guard and how it will better support our soldiers and airmen as they train to defend their home island and homeland from threats to peace and democracy. So, Dankaluna Sizus Masi for the opportunity to share some insights into this measure, and I humbly ask my colleagues to support this and the other bills that will be heard today.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice. Ma'am, and you're from the Department of Affairs. If you can state your name, please, and go ahead with your testimony.
Sure. Half a day. My name is Kathleen Pareto, and I am the quartermaster for the Department of Military Affairs. So currently, with the support of the $700,000, what this will do, and National Guard Bureau has been increasing our construction facility maintenance office about 2.5 every year. For the past 2 years, I have not been able to do the 25% match that is required through our master cooperative agreement. So with this, I can then utilize the 2.5 that I have in reserves currently that was already given to us and is anticipated to be also given to us for FY 2025. With this, it helps the sustainability and maintenance of all the facilities on the Fort Juan Muña and also the Barricada Readiness Center. After Typhoon Mawar, there was a lot of damage that was done to the facilities that wasn't been able to be done through the active nature. So this will help us with roof repairs. It will help us with the moldings that are happening at the buildings, et cetera. So it will help to secure the facilities to give a better home for the soldiers, and that in return come and defend our homeland.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm also a retired National Guard member, so I'm very familiar with what your needs are. But thank you anyway for your testimony. Does anyone like to speak to the panel? Madam Vice, would you like to ask a question? If not, I will save you for last.
Yes, you can, and I just want to note for the record that Jolene Materney and Adrian and Nicholas are also here in support of the measure, and if we can just note that for the record.
Yes, we will so note it.
So
All right, Senator Kanata, do you have any question for the quartermaster?
None at this time, Mr. Chair.
Senator Fisher?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Quartermaster. My question to you is, Senator Tina told us that the executive branch hasn't yet been officially notified of this potential increase in Section 30 funds. And if for some reason it doesn't appear, will you be requesting this outlay in your budget request?
The budget was already submitted, and it's not included.
Okay. I don't know when we might know for sure when Adelup would be notified.
Oh, I don't know yet when the administration is going to know, Senator Fisher.
Okay, I just wouldn't want you all, because the money didn't come forward, I wouldn't want you to miss the opportunity. So, if they don't request it.
Understood. I would just recommend, Quartermaster, that you put in a formal request to us for funding to back your 10%. That's what you needed. What was 10%?
25%.
25%.
Yes.
Whatever the amount is, ask for it. Even though you submit your budget, because sometimes budgets are submitted and then you don't realize you need it until it's later. Okay, that being said, I'd like to also recognize Senator Tideway that showed up, that's here with us. Senator Tideway, do you have any questions for the Quartermaster on Bill 298?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for being late. I was listening to some of the beginning part. Unfortunately, I missed what you were talking about. So this funding is for the military affairs? This is when you're here testifying 9298?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and it's for military affairs. Under military affairs, what usually funds your agency?
Majority of it is the National Guard Bureau at 100% federal funds, but we do have a 25% match that is required through our master cooperative agreement. And then, of course, the OTAG's office is 100% local.
And then, okay, so then you required a matching grant 25%, and that's coming from the Office of the Governor?
It comes, yes, well, through the legislature, through the DMA budget, yes.
Through the Office of the Governor?
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay, so you don't come to us, in front of us, and request for any money personally, right? You do this through the Governor's office?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much of the National Guard contributes to your agency? And how many employed?
So under the Department of Military Affairs, we have about 13 appendices, and they vary amongst the funding that comes to the national, through the National Guard Bureau. But I want to say maybe roughly around 13 to 15 million, depending on the budget.
Okay, and this all comes from the federal funds?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so everyone that's employed at military affairs, their salaries come from federal funds?
If they are attached to an appendice, yes. Except for the OTAG's office, we are 100% local.
Except the what?
The Office of the Adjutant General, then we are 100% local.
Did your office receive the 22% increase?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that requested or, not requested, but usually, when you're dealing with federal funds and there's any kind of increase to it, you get permission by the federal government. So before the 22% was incorporated into your salaries increase, was it, did you go to the federal government and let them know?
So with the Master Cooperative Agreement, it's a little bit different than the regular federal grants that come in. So through the Master Cooperative Agreement, as long as it's an allowable cost, then we are allowed. And it specifically states for salaries, benefits, merit bonuses, raises, anything that deals with in line with the state.
Okay, so that you didn't, right? In
Well,
other words, you felt that 22% increase to your office was, you didn't have to go seek permission to
No,
receive
so
any
it
of that
was
funding.
it was relayed to the U.S. PFO, which is they work directly with the National Guard Bureau, and then each of the appendixes communicate with the National Guard, their counterparts at the National Guard Bureau, and they provided the staffing pattern for the increase.
Thank you, and thank you for answering that question. And I just have one more, and I apologize if you have to repeat it, but the $700,000 to appropriate to the Department of Military Affairs, what exactly is that going to pay for?
That's going to help with the increase that the federal government gave us for our 25% match.
So it's going to matching? Okay.
Yes.
And in the event that you don't need it for some reason, and there's some transfer authority money that was set aside for you, I mean, usually when the governor gets an allotment to an agency, they hold back a certain percentage in reserve. And this is because in case they overspend or, there's money there at the end of the day. Does military affairs have to go through that same financial process where 10% of your appropriation is reserved and set aside to the end?
On the local side, yes.
Right, on the local side. And how much is in that account right now?
So my local funding is about 1.5.
Right.
So about 10% of that.
So how much is that total? About 100-something thousand?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is for 700,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Why wasn't this put in the budget bill, in the FY24 budget bill?
So unfortunately, our budget cycle and the National Guard budget cycle kind of doesn't line up. So we don't know the definite approval from the National Guard Bureau until about October.
Until October of 20,
So at the beginning of each fiscal year. So that is when I'll get the approved modification from the National Guard Bureau of how much they will be giving us for each appendix.
well, then how have you been working it out the last, 5 years?
So I'm new, so this is a learning process for me. So again,
How long have you been in there?
I've only been here since August of 2022.
August
So
2022.
I missed that budget cycle. I did the FY 2023. So all of this is just a learning cycle for me.
Okay, so what
now-
did you do in 2023? Because we're now in FY24, and this money is supposed to assist for 23 or 24?
Yes, it was in my proposed However, we get a
Was
ceiling.
was this request in your 24? Because you said you did the budget for 23, and so how did you deal with the 23? And then now it's 24. So how did you deal with it in the 24?
So in my proposed budget,
why?
yes, I did increase the local side.
But you're asking for 700,000.
Yes, I'm not the final, remember each department submits it to BBMR, and then from there, the ceilings come to the legislature.
Did you come to the legislature to request for this?
We were not part of the roundtable or the public hearings that you guys
So you
called
didn't
on.
come to the legislature to ask for 700,000?
No, ma'am.
You didn't? Okay.
I wasn't invited, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to also recognize Senator Brown has joined us. Just like to let you know, Ms. Pereira, Department of Military Affairs is an agency alone, okay? You may work for the governor, but you're not under the governor's office, okay? Just want to make sure that's understood,
Yes, sir.
all right? And you do have mainly federal funds, minimal matching local funds, okay? So, Senator Brown, do you have any question for the quartermaster from the Department of Military Affairs?
Well, I guess it's just, Mr. Chair, we sit with you as we sit on the Budget Committee, and I appreciate the desire of our chair the sponsor of this bill, to provide the funding, but, at the same time, how are you going to plan for the future? I mean, I understand these pay raises have been put in place, but in the event this money's not available next year, because this, I recognize we are getting increases, but, all that goes up must come down, and right now, we're pretty much living on the military buildup, which is not going to continue indefinitely. So what are the plans for next year? Because I don't know. I've always been a little more conservative in spending. And, this legislature, unfortunately, majority of this legislature has put long-term commitments on short-term revenue. So, my main concern in bringing up these questions, and I know Senator Tello has a very similar perspective, is sustainability. I mean, I know the election time is there and everyone wants to promise the sun and the moon. But what do we do if we can't sustain it? So what inevitably, if these monies are not provided, what's the impact to your operations? And if it's not available moving forward, what happens then?
So this money is used for sustainability and maintenance. So everybody that is covered under, the employees with the raises are 100% federally funded, yes.
Okay, so what if this money doesn't materialize? Then what?
So what I've been doing for the past 2 years is
Yes.
that I've been returning the 2.2 million.
Okay, and this is funds that otherwise you would use for what purpose? Just salaries or?
Sustainability and maintenance.
Okay, and what if you return it, then is it going to impact any existing?
We just do the projects that are within our budget.
Okay, and what you
Yes.
can fund that. So
Yes, ma'am.
you are essentially, you have the flexibility to expand and contract as, depending on the funds?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I wish the rest of the government of Guam could do that. Gosh, that would be great, but I appreciate your input. I just think we need to be mindful. I'm not Santa Claus. And I just think we want to ensure that with these funds that we are looking at right now, this is above and beyond, and we're certainly, as the chair knows, going through the budget process now. And again, I just want to make sure that when we're doing these appropriations, they're going to a good cause and that we have the ability over time to sustain, because I'll tell you, it's going to be terrible if a year or 2 or 3 from now, there's not the revenue stream there, and then all of a sudden, we have to start cutting bodies. And I've lived through that here, and it's not a very good thing to do, especially when you have a family that already has obligations. It could be a car, it could be a mortgage, whatever the case may be, that we want to make sure that they're addressing, their obligations. So thank you. I appreciate you responding to my questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I just want to make it very clear to all the participants here today on all the bills. All the bills are contingent on the funds coming in. If it comes in and this bill passes, you got a shot at it. If the money don't come in, leave it alone. It's gone. Okay? Madam Vice, you may do last questions and closing.
Thank you. On a comment, Mr. Chair, I just want to thank you, Quartermaster, for your testimony today. I want to express my gratitude for the Department of Military Affairs and the Guard employees who did reach out to my office to share this opportunity to increase your grant funding, and I'm confident that with the additional resources, our troops will be better prepared to fulfill their mission, and again, to put in some money to get more than double the amount, 700,000 for 2.5 million, and instead of having to return those grant funds back to Uncle Sam, we have an opportunity to build on and sustain what the projects for the Department of Military Affairs is about. So, Undankul Nasizus Masi for being here today, to your interns that are also here, thank you for being here and listening to the process, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, it is now 2:25. We will adjourn the issue on Bill 298-37 and proceed to Bill 299-37, an act to appropriate $1 million from the Section 30 revenues to the Guam Police Department. Remember, a contingent that the money comes in, okay? Madam Vice, you want to give an opening?
Sizos Masi, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chief Ignacio, for being here. As the title states, Mr. Chair and colleagues, Bill 299-37 COR appropriates $1 million from Section 30 funds to the Guam Police Department for fiscal year 2025. These funds will be used to purchase patrol vehicles and security cameras. Increased mobility for our police force through the acquisition of new patrol vehicles ensures that officers can respond swiftly and effectively to incidents across our island, and will bolster the presence of our officers in our neighborhoods, especially those areas that have high reports of crime or suspicious activity. Mr. Chair, this enhances their ability to combat crime and serve as a deterrent to potential offenders who will be made clearly aware of the visible and readily deployable law enforcement presence. Furthermore, the installation of security cameras along major roadways is a proactive measure to enhance public safety. These cameras serve multiple functions. They are instrumental in crime prevention, provide crucial evidence in investigations, and significantly bolster our overall security infrastructure. And to wrap up, Mr. Chair, this appropriation of $1 million to the Guam Police Department is a testament to our unwavering support to make the island safer. It is a critical investment that will result in noticeable and meaningful improvements to the Guam Police Department's mission to protect our community and enforce the laws of Guam. Mr. Chair, I look forward to the testimony from the Guam Police Department, who will give more details on how these investments will increase their operational capabilities and contribute to the safety and security of our island. And I thank you for allowing me to provide preliminary insights into this measure, and I humbly ask my colleagues to get the support for 299-37. Sizos Masi.
Thank you, Vice. Chief, I know you're here for the bill because it's hopefully to get you some money. So if you please could go ahead and testify for the bill.
Yes, sir. Have a good afternoon. I am Stephen C. Ignacio, Chief of the Guam Police Department, and I hereby submit this written testimony in support of Bill 299-37. And I would also like to thank the sponsor, Senator and Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munoz Barnes. The Guam Police Department patrol vehicle fleet is always in need of replacement and repair in various areas. Marked police patrol vehicles are utilized around the clock every day of the week in all conditions and by different officers. These factors make them susceptible to increased wear and tear, and greatly reduces their overall life efficiency. Vehicles are also damaged in motor vehicle crashes, both accidental and intentional by unlawful subjects. Most patrol vehicles purchased in 2014 are inoperable or evaluated as being marked for survey due to being beyond economical repair. The cost to fix them and get them operational is not worth the dollar amount due to the condition of the vehicles or other factors. Economic life is equally important to the role of fleet management. Economic life relates to the total stream of costs associated with a specific vehicle over a period of time. Therefore, it impacts both capital and operational budgets. There are 57 marked patrol vehicles that have been assessed and identified for survey because they are unserviceable and beyond economic repair. Some of the used parts from these vehicles have even been used to keep other vehicles of similar make and model working when needed. Even vehicles like the Dodge Chargers purchased in 2021, only 3 years ago, find themselves in need of repair or offline due to extensive mechanical issues. Based on this, it is safe to calculate that the average lifespan of patrol vehicles on island is about 3 years. And if I may add to that testimony, that's generally the accepted lifespan for police patrol vehicles throughout the United States as well. Nationally, police fleet vehicles are given a 4-year lifespan. The Charles County, Maryland Sheriff's Office assumes a 4-year vehicle life when preparing budgets. According to Bruce McLean, fleet manager and Fort Motor Police Fleet Advisory Board member. McLean said most vehicles are removed by 120,000 miles, but each vehicle is assessed individually. Fleet vehicles are driven an average of 25,000 to 30,000 miles each year, according to governmentfleet.com in 2007. A 2000 fleet study by Manatee County, Florida Sheriff's Department found the life expectancy of a patrol car used in a pool program was just 1.8 years. St. Petersburg, Florida Department, Hampton, Virginia Police Department, and the Arlington, Texas Police Department all average a 3-year life expectancy for their pool use fleet vehicles. Pima County Sheriff's Office, 2007. Over the past 3 years, Michigan State Police has tested different police patrol cars for efficiency, reliability, engine durability, and overall performance. During this period, the Dodge Charger's overall performance has been a continued success in these tests. The last 4 years, GPD has purchased a total of 33 vehicles. We are currently procuring 28 patrol vehicles to replace our aging fleet. The $1 million will allow us to procure an additional, it says 20, but if you do the math at the current market rate, only 11 additional patrol vehicles. The current market rate, based on a recent market study, was about $87,000 per vehicle, and that's quotes on Guam, from Guam dealers. As of June 12th, Dededo Precinct has a total of 24 marked patrol vehicles. However, 13 were grounded, 6 were operational, and 5 were damaged. Excuse me. So the rest of the written testimony, Senators, just goes over our overall fleet. Currently, we have 23 operational marked patrol vehicles as of June 12th. A total is needed throughout one shift, 32 patrol cars. So of the 23 cars, if you subtract 4 for the patrol supervisors, that leaves you with 19 patrol cars to cover 28 beats, and that'll give you a 67% coverage. If you add in the total 23 patrol cars, including the supervisor's car, that brings us up to, I believe, 72% coverage. So as you see, our testimony is focused, although the bill asks for money for security cameras, surveillance systems, and patrol cars, we like to focus our efforts on additional patrol cars. That's been a subject of an oversight hearing, media inquiries, and our budget hearing this past Monday. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Madam Vice, the author, I will save you for last, so you can make closing. Senator Canata, do you have any questions for the Chief?
None at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Fisher, do you have any questions?
Yet, just a few. Chief, if the money ultimately appears, I've got no trouble giving GPD $1 million of it. I mean, you obviously need it. My question's just this. Is there a market for your used vehicles?
So generally the process is we survey the vehicles to GSA. What we do in the Guam Police Department is we actually notify other government agencies if they want to invest their time and money to fix these patrol cars. Okay. I know sometimes DOC would come and pick up a patrol car to fix it up, They'd use it for perimeter security. Some of the mayors have come and picked up some of the older patrol cars. But
Can you sell them to the general public?
yes,
Okay, and then does, it's probably not much, but does the money come back to you, or does it go into the general fund?
I am not sure.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Tituki, do you have any questions for the chief?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chief. How are you?
I'm good, ma'am. Good afternoon. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too as well. So I'm going to ask you the kind of similar questions. Did you come to the legislature to ask for this 1.3 million? Did you come to the legislature or ask anybody here that you needed this funding? I think it's yeah. This is for 299, correct? Yeah. For the
yeah.
1 million, the 1 million. Is this a request from you?
I think, Chief, this is a bill that was introduced. I know you just had a budget hearing on your part. You asked for money. So just go ahead and answer that. The bill is introduced, and you're always asking for money. So just go ahead and answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for explaining. It was a very simple question. You know, I don't think you need any help to answer this, Chief. And that was the question. Did you request for this 1 million?
No.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Very simple, plain, to the point. Thank you. I do want to read into the record, you know, some of the comments that was made from BBMR, from the administration, about the legislation. It says, the Bureau notes that there are 5 other proposed legislations appropriating from the same funding source. The table below summarizes all the proposed legislation seeking to appropriate a total of $5.8 million from the potential additional Section 30 funds. The Bureau notes that if all of the proposed legislation are enacted into law, the identified funding source will be insufficient by $45,000. However, fiscal year FY25, the executive budget request submitted to the legislature on January 31st, 2024, projected Section 30 funds at $74 million. This amount is included in the overall general revenues. Basically, at the end of the day, it's called excess revenue. You know, regardless if it's Section 30, it's still called excess revenues, that are then allocated to the fund, the operations of the government for fiscal year 2025. If Guam is to receive $80 million in Section 30 funds, this represents an additional $5,754,847 that can be appropriated by the fiscal FY25. However, it's not for sure that we're going to get the funding. I mean, if anybody's been an advocate for the police department, it's me, especially with the cameras. I've introduced legislation several times to get you money for the cameras. Fortunately, you know, the wider range of demographics in Guam, it's hard to get a proposal. And that's why when I'm hearing you say that you plan on using it for vehicles instead of cameras at this point, it's understandable because it's hard for you to get quotes. You know, and I hope you continue that regardless, you know, Chief.
Yeah, with the recent amendment to that initial money that you gave us, we did redirect that towards outfitting surveillance systems for the precincts.
Right.
So
and
that's a work in progress right now.
Yeah,
and
thank you for that. Yeah,
yeah, I'm hopeful that we'll get a vendors this time to
Yeah,
submit.
I think it's a little bit smaller project based
Yeah,
on
it
trying
is.
to, my whole perspective was to put security cameras in areas like Ipao Beach, Seti Bay, areas like JFK, you know, where we constantly see tourists walk up and down, you know, from Kmart to Tumon, locations where we've had several purse snatchers, you know, and it just brings a sense of comfort. You know, knowing that somebody's watching, if I'm going jogging down in Tumon, which many of our local people do, that I'm going to feel a little bit safer because somebody is watching. So those cameras are really, really important. And if this $1 million is wiped out, you know, hopefully we can find some funding that is a reality and not like maybe if the 80,000 comes in. I mean, right now we just spent quite a bit of money on the credit for power credit, as well as, you know, other legislation that was recently passed, leaving our general fund with almost nothing left. So, you know, you know, the hope is there. I mean, it's probably easier to take this legislation and do this in the budget hearing, because then we'll have more of a feel on how much money really is out there with the reality of having that money. But appreciate you being here. Again, you know, I hope you try hard for those proposals on the camera system, because I know a lot of people in Guam would like to see more cameras around to keep us safe. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Senator Brown, and I just make a correction that 80,000 is 80 million. Senator Brown, do you have any questions for the chief?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. You have a lot of commentary this afternoon.
I'm telling you, and I'm enjoying it being the chair.
Well.
Senator Brown, do you have any questions?
Well, let's enjoy our moments while we have them. I wanted to ask Chief, you relayed with regards to the this funding, your priority is looking at the procurement of additional police vehicles. Is this pretty much what you'll be able to use this money for? Is there anything left over that you can use for some other priority you might have in your operations?
Sure. If there's any left over, we always look forward to repairing cars.
Okay.
So, you know, with at $1 million at 87,000 per patrol car, which is our current market research, we're looking at only 11 cars that'll give us a little bit of change, maybe for maintenance, upkeep. Yeah.
And I assume, and I'm hopeful, because, you know, we heard issues with regards to some of the procurement of vehicles after or during the pandemic that were not what we would say police officer ready, so to speak, to make sure that these vehicles are properly fitted with what they need, that you need for your operations. It's very different from a regular vehicle. I mean, I heard in some cases, you know, there's not a cage in the vehicle. You can't take anybody with you. I mean,
the 87,000 market research is for a fully outfitted police patrol
and that's
vehicles.
the type of police vehicles we want to see for the Guam Police Department, unless it's, you know, the little administrative car that's running around, or I understand you might have some undercover vehicles that you need for your investigations and things of that nature, which is fine, but certainly for the vehicles that your officers are out on patrol, we want to make sure that they have what they need, because we have seen procurements that have not met those requirements. We've had complaints from officers because of that. And understandably, I mean, their safety and well-being out there, you know that. You've been out there. You've been in charge of highway patrol. The need to ensure, because of the kind of work you do and the line of work you do, to make sure that these vehicles meet those requirements. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming down and providing your testimony.
Thank you, Senator Brown.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Madam Vice Speaker, your questions and closing, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I first want to thank the chief for coming down and sharing his intent and support for this measure, but I was also wanting to ask the chief if he, would you advocate for us to amend the bill to it be strictly for patrol vehicles, or would GPD benefit from retaining your ability to buy security cameras? In other words, the reason why I'm asking is, are you asking us to delete the language that lets you buy cameras, or do you prefer it be kept in case you feel it's prudent to purchase cameras? And I know that one of the previous colleagues spoke about the need for cameras, and I kind of share the same sentiments about when cameras are out there, right? It gives that extra protection when officers can't be around, and knowing that the place the areas can be better protected or safeguarded. So I yield that question to you, Chief. I just want to get your sentiments, because I know that with this testimony, you spoke strictly about the vehicles. So I just want to get your personal intent further.
Sure. I would recommend leaving it in, so that it allows us opportunities, so that, let's say I'm able to, because we are pursuing with another funding source, a fleet of 28 patrol cars at this point. So if we can get 28 plus maybe another 5 or 6 out of this funding source, and use the rest to allocate towards security cameras. We have talked, the Guam Police Department and this legislative body, we have talked about increasing security camera presence for, capturing vehicles leaving scenes of crimes and all that, capturing activities that occur. One of the things we've talked about is really putting cameras at major intersections along Route 1. If there's a purse snatching in Tumon, that suspect vehicle is going to eventually end up on Route 1. And so there are no cameras along Route 1 that will capture the presence of the suspect vehicles. So I think it allows flexibility, and I thank you if we could, for Vice Speaker, for introducing this bill and leaving it in there, so that it allows us some flexibility to decide, what is the best course of action. But definitely, we brought patrol cars up because it's been making its rounds lately in the media, in oversight hearings, and also in our budget presentations.
And thank you for that presentation, Chief, because as I noted in the beginning of the presentation to the chair on why, based on working closely with Delegate Moylan and Carmen Cantor's information on the public hearings, that there may be up to $80 million total, but based on the fiscal note from BBMR, if we had to add up all the bills, if and when it passes, there may be a shortage, and I was going to work with the oversight chair to see how it could be reduced appropriately across the board to all the bills that are in front of us, or make the necessary adjustments based on the programs that we have before us. And again, yeah, you always got to ask, right? And if the opportunity is there for new or revenue sources that are going to be allowed, or I wouldn't call it an anomaly, I'd call it a blessing to get the additional funding, because when the EBR, the executive budget request, comes in, and then when the actual results of what we receive in Section 30 funds gets in and gets minused off, if there's any extra, then it's up to this body to appropriate. So I truly appreciate you coming in to support the measures, and of course all the other folks that are here to support and fight for the measures that have been introduced here today. So Ndunklin Sidros Masi, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to hear this bill. And I hope my colleagues support the same, sir. Sana Masi, Sidros Masi.
Thank you. At this time, Bill 299-37 has been heard and is adjourned at 2:47. We will now proceed to Bill 300, an act to appropriate $1,300,000 from the Section 30 revenues to the Guam Fire Department. Madam Vice, you want to give your opening, please?
Sidros Masi, Mr. Chair. The Guam Fire Department stands as our first line of defense in the event of a fire or other critical incidents that endanger our island's community safety, and their unwavering commitment and quick response are critical in protecting lives, property throughout our island. The $1.3 million appropriation from the Guam Fire Department found in Bill 300 demonstrates a critical commitment to improving the operational capabilities. This funding will be used primarily to purchase trucks and equipment necessary for their firefighting efforts. These investments may come in the form of versatile mechanic trucks to ensure the maintenance and readiness of firefighting apparatus, commander trucks equipped to effectively coordinate emergency responses, squad rescue trucks for rapid deployment and rescue operations, structural fire vehicles designated to combat fires in various settings, and other necessary equipment critical for the safety and effectiveness of their missions. Mr. Chair, this bill not only benefits the Guam Fire Department, but it also improves our island's entire safety and security infrastructure, protecting our residents and properties against devastating impacts of fires and catastrophes. Mr. Chair, I do want to say I look forward to testimony from the Guam Fire Department, which will provide additional detail on how this $1.3 million budget will greatly enhance the operational readiness. And I thank you for the opportunity to push this critical investment for our fire department. I am certain that with these additional funds coming from Section 30, our firefighters will be better prepared to respond quickly and effectively to crisis, ensuring the safety and security of our island Guam. And I see that there's a whole panel here on Duncan Nacizos Maasi, Chief, and to the members of your team for being here this afternoon. Nacizos Maasi.
Thank you, Madam Vice. Chief, the floor is on you. And I know you wanted your DY, the student rep, to give the testimony. That's on you.
Thank you, Senator San Agustin, for having this hearing today and allowing us to be present. Vice Speaker Senator Tina Munoz-Barnes, thank you again for really putting us first in your heart. It looks like that we got the biggest chunk of all these bills, and we did recognize that, and we appreciate it. Senators Brown, Taitigui, Kanata, and Fisher, again, thank you for being here, being present. So I'll be the only one really providing testimony today. The testimony that's about to be read to you into record is my testimony. But if you indulge me and help me prepare our children for the future and let them lead the way, I'd like to ask our student intern to go ahead and read my testimony in its entirety.
Buenas and Hafa Day, Chairman San Agustin and members of the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing. Thank you for the opportunity to present Testimony Bill Number 300-37, an act to appropriate $1,300,000 from Section 30 revenues to the Guam Fire Department. The GFD continually faces challenges in equipment availability, operations, maintenance, and parts acquisitions. The inherently high cost of fire equipment and the scarce availability of parts add additional challenges to keep these units and apparatuses online. On average, from the time of the identified need, the lengthy and difficult procurement process and the lead time of awarded vendors could result in critical emergency response units being placed out of service for months. For example, we currently have 6 fire trucks at GFD Maintenance Shop and some of our local vendors awaiting purchase orders and/or parts to arrive for over 7 months. Some resulting effects are increased wear and tear on the remaining fleet in service and the need to respond to an expanded area of operation. To mitigate this situation, the GFD needs to increase its fleet inventory for all mission types, which is what the bill will aid in doing. The intent of Bill Number 300-37 will be to procure the following: 1 structural fire truck, Sinahanya; 2 squad rescue trucks; 2 medic trucks with tools; 2 commander trucks, and a missed fire equipment, hose appliances, nozzles, tools, and etc. The equipment listed expands across GFD operations and will make a huge impact towards saving lives and protecting property. For starters, a new fire truck will be placed at the Sinahanya Fire Station, which is in need of a fire truck. Currently, the GFD is working with DPW to bid and build a new Sinahanya Fire Station, which will need an apparatus of its own. Working down the list, the squad rescue trucks, commander trucks, and mechanic vehicles will serve across all commands, providing much-needed capability. Finally, replacing our aging fire equipment, hose, tools at all firehouses and response units will immediately improve efficiency, capabilities, and safety, meeting our objective to replace our aging fleet and equipment. In addition to this bill, we are aggressively pursuing the following funding opportunities or programs to secure the purchase of much-needed capital outlay, response vehicles, and equipment. ARP funds, comms, LMR radios, portables, ambulances, 4 to 5, USDA grant congressional, interface pumper truck, firefighter equipment, SCBA, wildland personal protective equipment, GURA SCBA, structural fire truck, non-appropriated funds, Sinahanya Fire Station, HMGP, station hardening, station 1378912, RB2, station hardening 4, 6, 10, and 11, station generators, GVB Tumon Rescue Base. These efforts are intended to demonstrate GFD's tenacity and exhaustive efforts to ensure we are mission-ready and capable. In closing, the Guam Fire Department and I will always remain available to continue the forward progress of our organization and its mission, and wholeheartedly support any legislation, including Bill number 300 to 37, that helps us meet our island's expectations and continue providing the professionalism, dedication, and high-quality services that our island communities have come to expect from women and men of the Guam Fire Department. Thank you again for allowing me this opportunity, our chiefs, officers, and I will always be available for your questions and or concerns.
Thank you. That's our testimony submitted. Thank you, and that's our testimony submitted for this bill.
And her name is?
Ani Tuncap.
Okay, Ani Tuncap. Thank you. I'll save the author for last. Senator Roy Canante, do you have any questions for the fire department?
Well, their testimony pretty much covered all the questions I was gonna pose, so. What's the lifespan of a fire engine?
So the lifespan of a fire engine is typically 12 to 15 years. We kind of say that if we can get 10 years out of it, then we know we've done our part to both keep it in service, do our best, and then maximize the return on investment for that fire truck.
Thank you. What is the lifespan of a ambulance or aid car?
About 4 to 7 years. On average, 5 years for the Guam Fire Department.
I know you guys just got like 3 fire trucks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So beyond those 3 fire trucks, what is the status, or how old are your other unit vehicles?
So we just received 2 fire trucks, and we have a total of 13 fire trucks in our inventory. 6 that are currently in service, and actually a 7th one that just got brought back in service today. The rest are remaining, they're either at the GFD mechanic shop or at our different vendors, just awaiting for purchase orders to be printed out and delivered and parts to arrive.
Okay, never mind, you already answered that. What is the main issue to get those units back online?
So the main issue really is just a tedious and lengthy process of procurement. We do have a inventory of our fleet inventory that's enough to allow for units to go down from time to time and to do the diagnostics and determine what parts and repairs are needed and submit for procurement. However, sometimes we do get hit with quite a few at one time, and so we kind of go past the timeline of procurement. The latest challenge really is the new implementation of the system via DOA, which has actually under Deputy Director Ms. Lisa Fisher has improved dramatically of late, and we are getting our POs out now. So that's why we were able to get the fire truck out today. We got some aircon POs printed so that we can get 3 of our units aircons fixed. So things are happening finally.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have. Thank you again to GFD and Tato Guafi Group. Really appreciate all you guys and your families.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Canante. Senator Fisher, you have any questions?
Yes, yes, thank you, sir. And good afternoon, lady and gentlemen. If we get this money, and then you guys get the 1.3 million, and you're able to purchase a fire truck, will you then have all the fire trucks you need?
Senator Fisher, I always want to answer that question with no, because we're always going to chase opportunities to get equipment in. What's very unique about the Guam Fire Department versus all your other agencies is one fire truck costs about $500,000. That's easily 5 to 10, police cruisers, right? So, although it might seem on the surface the impact is not as great, it's actually a huge impact that one particular fire truck makes. And so because of the high cost, We know that it's very hard to get funds for it, especially off of the general fund, and that's why we always seek these opportunities that are listed on this testimony to utilize federal funds, every possible opportunity that we can chase down to get these trucks.
All right. Has the fire department calculated response times to the various villages? For example, a structure fire is reported in Maritzo. Do you know approximately how long it would take to get a vehicle there to respond? And would you also have the same sort of information for Jigo or a central village, that sort of thing?
Yes, so we always strive to achieve, when it comes to fires, we strive to achieve the NFPA 1710 standard, which is basically responding to any fire or 90% of all fires within 8 to 10 minutes to get a crew of 4 plus a fire apparatus there on the ground and attacking the fire. Currently, and it all depends on what our current daily operational situation is, we are probably meeting that standard, I want to say conservatively, probably 60 to 70% of the time at this point. But as soon as we can get all of our trucks back up and running, like we did not too long ago, we could definitely meet that standard where we should be.
Okay, and just to kind of talk about that a little bit more. So if I were a resident of Maritzo and I reported a structure fire at 2 o'clock, according to the standards that you strive to meet, there should be a responder there by 8 minutes later?
Yes, 8 to 10 minutes. So that's from, so you have the 911 call. So our 911 has 2 minutes to dispatch a unit.
Okay.
And then, so from that point, on that third minute is where you would count that 8 to 10 minutes. So probably within 10 minutes, you should have a first responder there of any type. So I want to remind you that what's unique about the Guam Fire Department is that every single response vehicle that we have is staffed with firefighter EMTs and equipped with life-saving equipment. So whether you get an ambulance, you get an SUV, you get a rescue unit, a fire truck, we're meeting the standard by that way.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, and I do support this bill. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Senator Fisher. Senator Tyree, do you have any questions for the chief and his folks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hafaday, Chief. Good to
Hafaday.
see you, always. Can we go ahead and get the names of those who are with you today and introduce yourself, please, for the record?
So today we have with us Fire Chief or Battalion Chief Ed Artero, myself, Kevin Riley, Fire Captain.
Okay.
Anis,
Okay.
you met.
Anis,
And we have
yeah.
Elias also back there with
Okay.
us for the DUIA program.
Thank you so much. Good to see you too, Mr. Artero, or Battalion Artero, right? That's Battalion Chief Artero, Chief. You guys are all chiefs, technically, right?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, just to, wanted to read something from BBMR, okay? The Section 30 funds identified as a source of appropriation in the proposed legislation is from the additional revenues that the government of Guam, and they bolded, may receive from fiscal year 2025. Per local media outlet, the Assistant Secretary of Insular Affairs reported to the House Committee of Natural Resources hearing that Guam may receive $80 million in Section 30 reimbursement. The Bureau is not in receipt of any official correspondence on fiscal year 2025 Section 30 reimbursement at this time. Chief Nicholas, did you request for this funding?
So I was not here during the budget hearing. I was on annual training doing military duties. However, specifically for this particular funding and its purpose, no, we didn't.
Okay.
But we did request for an increase in our budget, prioritizing what our special funds and general fund could pay for, knowing that we had, as we read earlier in the testimony, all these other opportunities for this particular purpose.
How many LTAs do you have at the fire department?
0 LTAs.
0 LTAs, right? Okay. And what are you doing for the paramedics that are coming? They're under your jurisdiction, right, the paramedics?
Yes, so we currently have 12 certified paramedics that are operating on our advanced life support units out of San Juan Fire Station. Those are 2 units. And then we have a class of, I believe we're at 33 paramedic students that are undergoing training right now and set to graduate somewhere around November.
And what vehicle do they use when they go out, when there's a call and a paramedic?
So right now, our advanced life support units are 2 SUVs that carry 2 paramedics and all their life-saving equipment and medications. So it's an intercept program. What they do is, when an ambulance picks up a patient that requires that level of care, they dispatch the hours unit. Hours unit will intercept en route or at scene, and then they will provide that level of care.
And Chief, how many vehicles of those vehicles that you're talking about the paramedics use? How
Right
many
now,
do you
we have two hours units.
Only 2?
Only 2. And
cover
in a
the whole
perfect world,
entire
we would
island.
love to have 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But, again, we only have 12 paramedics at this point.
12, yeah.
And we're looking to, once we get the rest in November, we're going to upgrade some of our other units as well to provide more services.
So it, also in the legislation, well, I hope you get those vehicles because, with the 23 intended graduates coming up, but the 13 you have right now, or 12 that you have right now, even if you had, 2 in each vehicle, there's still quite a bit of paramedics who are, unless they're on off-duty, but on duty. But you're looking at a span of the island with only 2 vehicles. That's very minimum. That's more than, that's not acceptable, actually,
So those are just 2 vehicles that are operating on a daily basis. So we do have, for SUVs in particular, we do have I don't want to say a healthy fleet, but we do have a fleet available to replace vehicles should those vehicles go down.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know.
Yes.
Because only 2. It was once upon a time when there was ambulances, and we only had 2 for the whole entire island, but that changed. The last question, if you take the legislation, Chief St. Nicholas, and look at the legislation on page 1, line 13.
I apologize, I don't have the legislation in front of me.
Okay, let me read it for you. I'll start on the section itself. Section 2, appropriation to the Guam Fire Department. Oh, well, here we go. Page 1, thank you so much for that. Thank you. So it's on page 1 and line 13. It says, let's go ahead and just read that. It says 1.3 million is appropriated from Section 30 funds to the Guam Fire Department for the operation fiscal year 2025 for vehicles and equipment, including, but not limited to, mechanic truck squad, rescue trucks, et cetera, et cetera. When you see the word not, the lines not limited to, can you assume that you can actually use this money for anything else?
Yes, Senator, but in the way that I operate, I kind of go with the intent or the spirit of the budget. And if the intent was to purchase a fleet for our response capabilities, then I would probably take those monies and go towards, for instance, ALS vehicles. ALS vehicles are not listed here, but I would probably think about buying a couple of replacements.
Well, I think the intent of the legislation is true to form, but to have this language in there, that's an open door for anything else that you can use this money for. And so this particular language here, I think we should, eliminate so that you do stay true to the intent. Because not just you, Chief St. Nicholas, but you never know. Things might change. You might hopefully not retire or, want to do something else and you're not there. He's close to retirement, I know, but hopefully not soon. That this funding, if the next chief comes in and looks at this and says, hey, we can use this money for salary increases. We can use this money for something else. So I think, we should look at that, eliminating that section right there.
Well, Senator, respectfully, I would probably ask to take another look at that. Maybe we can have a discussion. Because although I do have figures here for like a structural fire truck of 500,000, really it's probably around 480, 490, and that remaining could be used towards, an ALS unit, for instance.
Used for, I'm sorry, say again?
For an advanced life support SUV, right? So, if a fire truck costs 475,000, that's 25,000 available to buy another vehicle, or again sticking with the spirit of the bill.
Okay, but it's to play it safe. Nobody is,
Sure.
in these positions at the government of Guam, for a lifetime.
Understood.
And so we have to make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's.
Thank you.
Make sure that no shenanigans are going on, right?
No shenanigans here, Senator.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tyree. Senator Brown, do you have any questions for the chief and his folks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only recall because I did have a conversation with our fire chief back in the day, and that was almost 7 years ago, and he told me, Joanne, I got 10 more years to go, because I know you're certainly younger than we are. But hope you stay as long as you can, Chief. We certainly appreciate all the work that you and your team does for us. I know during the budget hearing last week you were not here, but we were notified that you're looking at maybe, another 5 or 6 ambulances out of the ARP funding. What's the timeline for that, from the time you ordered and processed it to the time you're expecting to receive your ambulances?
From the
And how long on average does it take from the time you order to you can actually
So from the time
expect
of actually the cutting of the PO, about 8 months.
Okay.
But again, so we're at this point of the fiscal year for any procurement above 25,000. It's kind of really criticized, or at least, looked into. But fortunately, the governor has directed that we prioritize these ambulances, and so it's being pushed forward to procurement.
Would that be enough to accommodate? And how many fire stations altogether do you have around the island?
Total of 12 fire stations and 2 rescue stations, plus our headquarters, which is we consider a response station as well.
And would that, because we were told there were only like 6 ambulances. Historically, that's not enough. That's not a lot. That used to be crisis news on the news every night, just having 6 ambulances for the entire island, and that's where we're at today. These additional ambulances, would that allow you to have a full presence with all your fire stations to have an ambulance available? And is that the standard requirement, to have an ambulance available with a fire truck and whatever other accessory vehicles you may need to respond to whatever emergency comes your way?
Yes, Senator. So first, we do have a fleet of 14 ambulances currently. And although 6 are in service, the rest just need either repairs for one reason or another, that go through the daily wear and tear. But the addition of the 4 to 5 ambulances will definitely allow us or give us some breathing room to repair those that need it, and then as well as provide the adequate number of ambulances we feel is appropriate for the island based on statistics, as Senator Fisher pointed out, the response standards. So we are always comfortable with 8 ambulances at any given time as our norm. We feel we meet 90% of our calls within the requirement. But it's always good to have that 9th one as well. But again, there's other challenges with staffing. So, but yeah, absolutely. 4 to 5 ambulances will definitely give us a lot of breathing room.
And then the existing ones that are under repair, are they all repairable? I mean, I've had my day at DPW, and one of my introductions was a whole fleet of Guam police vehicles that were left, in the hundreds, as well as the Guam Fire Department, including whatever DPW collected, and certainly spent my time there trying to make sure we surveyed them out and got them moved, they were moved on, because I think they were there since Temponada. They were there a long time. You have your own mechanics that are repairing most of your ambulances, or do they have to go to a private repair shop for certain specialties or whatever might be required on the ambulance?
So both, Senator, and thank you for that question. So give me an opportunity to praise some of our mechanics. We have one mechanic that's really operating for the Guam Fire Department. And then we have DPW, Mr. Vince and Linda have graciously allowed their mechanics to assist us, as well as GPD. We all kind of work together to keep the entire operation that we do up and running. So it's a team effort, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them for that. But yes, we do fix what we can. And if it does require more technical or like it's a bigger job that we can't handle right away, then we try to outsource it to a vendor.
So back to my question, are all of those 6 that are currently under repair, are they all repairable is my point? Are you anticipating that you'll be able to get them back to your fire stations and back out on the road?
Yes, Senator, yes.
Okay. How about the ambulance that unfortunately went for a ride, with the irresponsible parties? I guess that was just last year and we heard about that. Unfortunately, I don't know procedurally how you might change it to make sure it doesn't happen again, that some irresponsible person strolling around doesn't think they can just hop in an ambulance and drive off with it, and understandable.
We've taken actual measures at that level, Senator. They don't leave an ambulance unlocked anymore.
It's unfortunate that you have to, that they're inconsiderate, uncaring, irresponsible people out there, especially when you're responding to emergency, and depending on whatever the circumstance of the individual that you're there to assist, trust me, we're all kind of dumbfounded by that kind of stupidity that's happening out there. But what happened in those cases? Are those was that ambulance repairable, or what's the situation of that particular
So in
ambulance?
particular to that stolen ambulance, no, it's not.
Okay.
We've determined that the investment is way too high because they completely ripped out the entire electrical system. So we're actually using that as a parts vehicle now, which has helped to keep other ambulances up and running.
Is that one of your 6 or no? Or are you just
No.
simply not counting it?
Correct.
You can cannibalize it for whatever
Correct.
else you need.
Correct.
And then now with the addition, I wanted to ask you, I know that was a long and winding road to procure a pumper truck for the Guam Fire Department. Goodness, I think that procurement started over longer than this administration. I think in your last administration where you served as fire chief, where all the paperwork was signed. What is the status of that? Have you obtained your pumper truck, or are you anticipating your pumper
Yeah,
truck?
so those are the 2 trucks that we recently received, put
Okay.
into service a couple of months ago. And that one in particular was because of the COVID, extending the lead time to almost 2-3 years for delivery of fire trucks. But we believe the lead time has shortened since.
Okay.
We're confident it's under 2 years now at this point.
Okay.
And hopefully it keeps getting better.
And
as
how
time
many
goes
did
on.
you procure? Was it 1 or 2? How many pumper trucks do you
That
have?
particular procurement was 2.
Okay.
Yeah, and we currently have 1, 2 in the pipeline right now. Or not in the pipeline, but
One other
being
question.
procured.
You had relayed that I guess you are working on a new Sinahanya Fire Station?
Yes.
Which is nice. That Sinahanya Fire Station's been up there on the hill a while, and it's not a very big one.
No,
But
yeah.
maybe back in the day, it accommodated the needs of the village, certainly when my grandfather was living there. But are you relocating? Because obviously the property's not very big. You have the school right next to it and the church on the other side. So do you have another property that you have available that you'll be able to construct your new
Yes,
fire station?
we are relocating to where the central GPD precinct is located.
Okay.
We'll be on the high
adjacent to
side
them?
up on the left side.
Oh, okay. Is
Yeah,
that where the
or
old...
towards where the Coca-Cola used to
We
be.
remember, we're old enough to, probably you not. but
I'm not.
The rest of us are old enough up here, I think, to remember the old Coca-Cola facility up on the hill back in the late 60s and early 70s.
Just repeating what
Okay.
I was told.
So you're anticipating, you already have the land, or what's your timeline for construction and?
So the plans are complete. They're delivered to DPW. DPW engineers have it. The account has been set up, money has been loaded, and the advertisement PO has been executed as well. So it's now in DPW's hands to announce for a bid and to do a bid build, since we already have the design.
Well, we certainly look forward to that. Chief, I appreciate your response. We don't always get that from head of agencies. You ask a direct question, you expect a direct answer, and sometimes they don't have that information readily available or accessible to them when they're asked. So I appreciate your candor and your response to my questions. With that, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity to ask questions and inquire of our fire chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
I have an excellent staff that keeps me updated.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Madam Vice, for your question and closing, please.
Thank you. I promise I'll try and make it fast. I only have several questions. Mr. Fire Chief Nicholas, thank you for your team and you for being here this afternoon. When many of us picture a fire department vehicle, right? In our heads, we think of the big fire engines that are prominent in your fire stations, right? Big, long ones, right? But as your testimony highlighted, there are many scenarios that require a response from GFD. My question to you is, what types of fire and emergencies are better handled through the other types of vehicles that will be bought through this bill? And Section 2 specifically states the other opportunities that you can probably delve into. So if you can expound on that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator, for that question and allowing me to brag about the Guam Fire Department. So the Guam Fire Department is your all hazards response organization, your only one, your primary one, your premier department. And we respond to everything, not just fires, but emergency medical services, sick and injured, hazardous material spills and calls, auto fires, grass fires, high-rise incidents, collapsed structures, bridges break down, and so on and so forth. So we need a multitude of different types of vehicles and equipment to respond to all of these things. And that's what this bill is going to allow us to do, to build a capacity across all emergency response.
Thank you. You know, looking at that section too, Mr. Fire Chief, let's read that sentence that was brought up by my good colleague again. For its operations for fiscal year 2025 for vehicles and equipment, including but not limited to, right? Chief, do you agree that this language would limit your purchases to vehicles and equipment only and not for salary, bonuses, or other unrelated personnel costs? Just a confirmation on that.
So are you, sorry, I missed the last part.
So you're saying that, so you agree that this language would limit your purchases only to the equipment as described in section 2?
Again, the intent of the bill was to purchase equipment, and that's what I would use it for. That would be my stance.
And not for like salaries or other bonuses, right?
Correct, because that would actually require an object class change, and that's something that I would have to discuss through BBMR, and in my experience, if it's not explicitly stated that it's for salaries, they won't move that money around.
Just wanted to make sure that we had a clarification for that. And then one more, Mr. Chair, if I may, before I close. I understand that, Chief, that we always want to get to a scene as soon as possible to save lives, but can you expound on the increased risk that each minute places on the responder during a working fire? And what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to point out how critical giving you the tools you need are to not only give you the tools that are necessary to secure the safety of our residents, but to also you as your fighters who are our heroes, right? And who literally go out and risk their lives. So can you share with me your thoughts based on this question about the time, what every minute places for you to get from where you're at to the scene of the incident?
So thank you, Senator, for that. So I like to use the highest standard, and the highest standard is for when we respond to a CPR. When somebody stops breathing and has a cardiac arrest, every minute that passes is a decrease of 10% survivability. So come to 10 minutes, it's 100% possibility that we will not bring them back. So the sooner we get there, seconds matter, minutes even more. And so the quicker we get there, the more important it is, or to our advantage.
I think that's why it's important, Chief, that I hear your response to that as we look at providing you additional funding and praying that this section funding funds will be available based on what we've been hearing, that the resources that you need to get these vehicles and equipment for your officers, firefighters, I think is critical and key. And I literally sincerely hope that my colleagues support the efforts, because you guys never stop answering, and you have a delineated report. You also have a breakdown of what's going on right now and what you've already been working on and what you should be receiving, but it doesn't stop you from continuing to make sure that your fleet is in top shape and that it's ready to go, because it is your job to, well, our government's job is to provide for those basic services, and it's the fire department's job to save lives. And law enforcement officers are really important and key, and I appreciate what you do. So, Mr. Chair, I want to thank the Guam Fire Department for their testimony today regarding the importance of this legislation and their commitment to protecting our island, and a clear description on how these funds would be used to improve the operational capabilities and how valuable they are. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to work closely and have the people hear this bill.
Thank you, Madam Vice. There's no one else to testify. The hearing on Bill 300-37 is now adjourned. It is now 3:24. We'll now proceed to Bill 301-37 COR. An act to appropriate $900,000 from the Section 30 revenues for the Physician Recruitment and Retention Education Debit Repayment Program. With that, I'd ask the folks, Madam Vice, to go ahead and give your opening.
Si Jusmasi Talo, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to discuss this bill as an opening, and to the distinguished members for you being here this afternoon. The next proposal, 301-37, we have on the agenda, takes care of an urgent need in our healthcare system. This measure supports the Physician Recruitment and Retention Education Debt Repayment Program, which seeks to address Guam's difficulties in recruiting and retaining skilled medical doctors. These professionals are essential to the continuous provision of affordable, first-rate healthcare services throughout our island, through critical financial support to physicians struggling with student loan debt. This initiative aims to increase physician recruitment and ensure their continued commitment to serving on Guam. Mr. Chair, by allocating $900,000 to the Physician Education Debt Repayment Fund, we are demonstrating our dedication to enhancing healthcare services and strengthening our medical professionals. All Guam residents will eventually benefit from this investment in terms of improved health and well-being, as it not only reduces financial pressures, but also enhances our healthcare personnel. As one respected doctor put it when discussing this strategy to attract homegrown talent to practice medicine back at home, while a handful of personnel may not make meaningful gains, when we think about the number of public school teachers or police officers we could use in those respective agencies, even one cardiologist or rheumatologist or oncologist, those are all specialties, Mr. Chair, can make a world of difference to our patients. Thank you for listening to my remarks on this prevalent issue regarding our healthcare system. Given the impact this law would have on the accessibility and quality of healthcare on our island, I implore my colleagues to support this legislation, and let us put the people of Guam's health and welfare first by investing prudently in programs that improve our healthcare system. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice. With that note, I'd ask the folks that are sitting on the panel to state your name, your position, and then continue on with your testimony for Bill 301. Sir, you got the mic on, so you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Randy Wiegand. I'm the Vice President of Administration and Finance at the University of Guam. And I have some testimony that I'd like to read on behalf of President Enriquez. So, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Speaker, Senators, Sejuas Maasi for the opportunity to comment on Bill 301-37, which seeks to appropriate $900,000 to the Physicians Education Debt Repayment Fund for the Physician Recruitment and Retention Education Program. Administration of the program rests with the Board of Regents at the University of Guam. The shortage and difficulty for recruiting physicians has been a concern of the University of Guam for the last several years. Every year we conduct a community survey in order to prioritize funding for the PROTEC program. Every year, the top need of the island is identified as doctors and other medical professionals, yet each year the shortage on island seems to become even more acute. The PRP is similar to other service payback requirements under the Student Financial Aid Program. As the university has administered the SFAP programs over 2 decades, we have found that there has been a growing trend in the number of students who utilize PROTEC funds for their graduation education, but instead of returning to the island to repay their scholarship, to repay their scholarship through service, they take out a loan and repay the university for the PROTEC funds provided, and the university is left back where we started, without professionals the island needs. We are also having similar issues with the nursing training program and its ability to keep nurses on island. We commend the action you have taken to address the shortage of medical professionals in Guam and stand ready to support the implementation of the program with adequate administrative funding. In the PRRP, the university is charged with wide-ranging administrative tasks to manage the program, such as developing guidelines for the administration of the program, processing applications, supporting an appeals process, collecting and managing repayments from participants who do not meet their service obligations, developing criteria for a contract obligating recipients a service obligation or repayment where appropriate, forming and managing the PRP committee, etc. The management of the program is similar to that reflected in Chapter 15, 7 GCA of the Student Financial Assistance Programs. However, there is no discussion of an administrative allowance for the university to manage the PRP as described above. Under the SFAP program, the university is allowed to take a 10% fee to pay the cost of administering the program. We request that language of this nature be included in the bill, such as no more than 10% of the total appropriation in this section shall be used for the administration of the program. Including this language would ensure that the PRP does not become an unfunded mandate for the university. The university stands ready to work with the Guam legislature to solve this important issue for the island. Mas respetu, Anita Borja Enriquez.
Thank you, Randy. Are you going to testify? No. From GMH, who's going to testify? No, she's not going to testify. Ma'am?
All right, then. Thank you very much. Buenas and half a day. My name is Lillian Perez Posadas. The testimony I prepared was really more on the Bill 302, which was the nursing recruitment and retention incentives, but we're not there yet. So I'll speak a little bit more on Bill 301, because really both, on behalf of our hospital board of trustees, executive management council, management, employees, and medical staff, we commend and support and thank this legislature for crafting these two legislative bills that will appropriate $900,000 each for the recruitment and retention incentives for nurses and for the recruitment and retention of physicians in the form of a debt repayment program for the medical education that an individual completes in order to practice as a physician in Guam. These appropriations will undoubtedly help GMH and the other health agencies in the recruitment and retention of doctors and nurses. In terms of Bill number 301-37, the Physician Recruitment and Retention Education Debt Repayment Program, some of the major issues that limits and prohibits GMH from availing an existing debt repayment program, such as the one that the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center has under a HRSA grant called the Student Loan Repayment Program, they call it SLRP, is the inability for GMH to qualify this program, to access this program for individuals who complete their medical education and want to come back to Guam, because we are not a designated critical access hospital. That's one of the criteria for individuals to then apply for this grant and then come to Guam and come work at GMH. The reason why we do not qualify for that critical access designation is because the criteria for that designation is that the hospital must only have 25 beds. We don't have 25 beds. We are the only government hospital, the only public hospital in Guam, and so, you know, we can't just have 25 beds. We have 161 beds, and we may need more, but I have already plugged the seed to HRSA, to CMS, and to some of our federal partners, that if they can grant GMH an exemption and be given that CAH designation, that would then definitely help us bring people from Guam, our young people from Guam who have gone off island to get medical education, come and practice in Guam under that loan forgiveness program. Another program that is available under the IRS is the National Health Service Corps program. That will allow individuals to come who complete again their medical education program and practice in Guam without having to pay for their loan, but they will pay it through service in Guam. The issue that, again, does not allow us to get that designation is because we're not a primary care provider. That's the criteria in order to get that designation. We're an acute care hospital, so we can't get that designation. If we can get that changed at the congressional level, that will help, again, us bring our local people who go off island come back and work with us. The other one is the public service loan forgiveness under the, it's an exemption status. We do have that 501c3. We do have that because it was applied a long, long time ago. It's really hard for the financial institution to process the loan forgiveness that individuals apply for. So we're in the process. We've been in communication with DRT, how we can update that designation so that we can use that tool to then allow individuals to come back and get their loans forgiven by working at the hospital. So those are the three things that we are working on to help us with the recruitment and retention of physicians via that debt forgiveness program or loan forgiveness program. So if we can get some support from the legislature, that would also help. So thank you for allowing me to speak on that part of the legislation, Bill 301, in terms of recruitment and retention of physicians via the debt forgiveness program. Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan, are you going to speak or no?
I back up everything she had said, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them as well.
All right. Now I'll save the author until the end for questions and closing. Senator Fisher, do you have no questions? Senator Taribi, do you have any questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to those who are here testifying. You know, it's ironic, just this morning, you know, we had the Attorney General here. We were talking about paralegals and the paralegal program and trying to, you know, put some money aside for scholarships, you know, for those who want to seek their paralegal degree, you know, outside, and to kind of set some money aside even for attorneys, you know, because not only there's a shortage of nurses and doctors on here, there is a shortage of attorneys. And they were, you know, the Attorney General just like put a little pun in there and said, you know, please support this program at the University of Guam or to provide these scholarships for that. I mean, this is the intention of this legislation here, is to fund this area. Right now, how much money is set aside for this, this program?
Yes, Senator, as far as we know, this will be the first appropriation for this program.
How long has the program been in play at the University of Guam?
Well, we believe the program was adopted in 2011, and it just hasn't been funded.
Why? Did the University of Guam request for any funding for this?
We did not.
And so my question again is why? Why not?
Well, we have our Protect fund, and that's what we've been focusing on. So we get money through SFAP, and that's the money that's been
You have
provided.
your Pro-Tech fund, right? Which we were talking about, you know. But, so this program has never been implemented, but it's going to do the same thing as the Pro-Tem.
It's a little bit different.
What's the difference between the Pro-Tem and this one?
So with the Protect, we send people, we provide scholarship money so they can go off and get their education. So we pay for that up front, and they have an obligation to come back and provide service to the island for a certain number of years. And then the scholarship has been repaid at that point.
The scholarship is what? I'm sorry, if you can just talk into the mic, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the scholarship has been repaid at that point.
At that point.
Once the service criteria has been met.
Okay.
With this one, someone has gone to school, taken out loans, and if they come back to Guam, this is a loan forgiveness program where they can then
their loan would be paid.
Receive the money, pay off their loans.
Pay off their loans.
And then they have the obligation to stay on the island and continue to serve.
Okay, so basically this particular program was implemented in, well, passed or in place since 2011. The University of Guam never funded it. You basically used it for the Pro-Tech program. By the way, does the Pro-Tech program include attorneys or just medical?
It includes
engineers, attorneys, Nurses, doctors?
professions.
All professions, okay. Did you ask for this money for this program?
To my knowledge, we did not.
You didn't ask for it? Okay. Well, I'm sure you were here from the very beginning as I read the BBMR report. That this is a May, come in. It's excess revenue. And of course, we've passed legislation the last session that pretty much wiped out most of our excess revenue. So just keep that aware of that, And my last question was, no, I think you answered it. You didn't ask for this, and it's obvious what wouldn't be in your budget bill. So that's the end of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Tyree. Senator Brown, do you have any questions for the panel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Certainly appreciate the testimony. I just wanted to inquire, because it's different from the ProTech if you mentioned where you front the money and a student can go and get their degree and then come back and serve. How much on a ProTech is the average years of service they would need to provide back to pay off their ProTech scholarship? Is it 2-3 years or?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. My name is Rachel Field. I'm the University of Guam's budget officer, and I assist the financial aid office in submitting the annual SFAP budget. And so for the professional technical scholarship program, it's 2 years for every year you're on the program. So on average, let's say if you're in a 2-year program, you'll serve 4 years in total to pay off the obligation.
And in this particular case for this program, where essentially they could have gone on their own and gotten their degree, and then it's like you still have some, financial debt as a result, what would be the equation? How much money would they get annually if they were to come back and work on Guam? What would they receive to offset their debt from their
It's
from their
actually
school?
set in Chapter 52. It's $25,000 per year you're on the program should the applicant be admitted into this loan repayment program. So
Okay,
it's $25,000
a year, and it doesn't matter if they work in, a GMH, for example, or a private clinic, or whatever the case may be, as long as they're physically on Guam, providing services to patients here.
There, in the chapter itself, there's like an evaluation committee that has all of the health agencies involved who make selections, and the University of Guam Board of Regents is part of administering this program along with the financial aid office. And so if they are a medical professional and they're selected through this committee, they would be on this $25,000 repayment and be given these funds to pay off their medical loans.
Okay, but it doesn't matter whether they work in the private sector, public sector, as long as is that the case? I'm sorry, I have not read the legislation, that's why I'm asking.
No, it's okay. I'd have to review that specific part in the chapter, but then the university is also in charge of creating guidelines and SOPs related to this program, and so I would envision that would be fleshed out if the funds are in fact appropriated to the university.
I'm just asking in case anyone's listening, because we do have a lot, the reality is we do have a lot, family and friends that have gotten their degrees in the medical field, doctors, pharmacists, the list goes on. They're just not here. They didn't come back to invest back in the island, and that would be a nice incentive for those that would get the information to come back to Guam, because we have a lot of our own people. It's just sad they're not here providing that service. Maybe this would be a good incentive for them to come back home. Yes. Appreciate it. Thank you for responding to my questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Madam Vice Speaker, your questions in closing, please.
Mr. Chair, to the panel, for this Physician Recruitment and Retention Education Debt and Repayment Program, have all the administrative rules and regulations been adopted?
We don't believe they have, Senator.
Okay. Is further action from the Board of Regents or other university body needed to complete the rules before it can be fully stood up?
Yes, the board is authorized to adopt the rules, and we will get that on the agenda to get that get that moving.
And maybe from this perspective, how do you feel the risks is for the payback scheme being on the front end when the government offers financial aid ahead ahead and during one's schooling versus the risk of this program when the aid only comes in after the graduate returns to Guam. You know, I understand that more. I understand that more than we'd like, some program participants for ProTech and others do not complete their obligations, and it turns UOG and other entities into debt collectors. And you know, we've heard this before. We've seen it happen. Would you rather not have to go after people who don't fulfill these obligations, rather simply stop granting financial aid if a participant chooses to move off island? So maybe just based on the programs, what you can share between the two, you taking it from the front end or working it from the back end, right? For the program, you, yes.
Sorry, Madam Speaker. Yeah, we understand that's the problem we're having, is that we've been experiencing people who take the money, get the education, and then they'll take a loan and pay it off, and then they just stay in the States with their degree. So that's the risk. We're trying to figure out how we can better operate this and make sure that the people are coming back to Guam to serve. So in that respect, there is the risk, and on the other hand, it seems like we're expecting the person to get their own financing on the front end, get the education, and come back. And I would think that may eliminate some people also.
I bring that up as a perspective because I know that a lot of our students really do have the intent when they leave here to get that better education and the hopes to come home, and especially with the opportunity that the specialties that they're going for, that the ProTech will help pay for that. $25,000 a year for a 4-year program is at $100,000 savings for the 4-year program and then some. So it does help. But looking at the this position recruitment and retention education debt reprogram payment, right? It works it after everything is over, so probably a better need for them to saying, okay, I am going to come home. We do know, like my previous colleague said from Pago, that we really want them to come home, but for a lot of them, the opportunities are greater back there because probably the salaries are much, much, much higher, and I can see Lillian agreeing with that they saying, okay, I can get a loan back here to repay the ProTech then and get the resources out here. But the intent was to bring our kids home, right, and to give back to their communities. So I'm really hoping that you bring this up and put this on the agenda, and that if and when the opportunity is there, because again, as I noted in the beginning of this hearing, the perspective of how we are going to receive these funds and the commitment hearing from the possibility that based on the EBR that was presented to us and based on what is coming in and working closely with Delegate Moylan and hearing the testimony from Cantor that we will be expecting more. So I'm very optimistic, and I really want to see this program work. And I want to see our doctors come home. There are other programs that we continue to work with the university, with behavioral health, with public health, to have professional student exchange programs completed so that our students can come home, right? They get interstate tuition off island, and then they get to come home and repay it back by doing service here. So we've literally been stepping outside the box to get creative, to find opportunities for students to get that education and help them find the resources in a couple of different ways, but for them to come home and not stay back there and try and repay everything back. So I just want to say thank you for presenting your support, and also for you, UOG, for presenting your support for this program. And I thank you, Mr. Chair, for hearing this bill. And I really hope my colleagues will support the efforts, because even with the programs that exist out there today, what better way, this has already been in the books, what better way is to give it some synergy and life, so that we can tell our students who want to come home in the future, go to get your degree, but come home and we'll help you. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I literally express my profound gratitude to all the stakeholders and attendees of today's public hearing. I appreciate your insightful testimony in favor of this legislation, which emphasizes how vital the physician recruitment and retention education debt repayment program is very viable for our community, and it's a program that can be very successful. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, panel, for being here.
Thank you, Madam Vice Speaker. There are no one else to testify on this bill 301-37. The hearing is now adjourned at 3:50. We will now proceed to bill 302-37, an act to appropriate $900,000 from Section 30 revenues for nursing recruitment and retention incentives. Madam Vice, if you'd like to give your opening on the bill, I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I really want to say thank you for staying with me all afternoon to hear these very vital bills for our community. Today we are hearing Bill 302-37, which directs $900,000 from Section 30 funds to the Department of Administration for the nursing recruitment and retention incentives pursuant to 4 GCA Section 6229.1 for fiscal year 2025. Mr. Chair, these funds are intended to be utilized until fully expended, ensuring a lasting impact on our healthcare system, even if the government cannot spend this money within the upcoming fiscal year. As many of us serving in this body have repeatedly stated, improving health care on Guam is not just about making repairs and renovations to our facilities. It's also key to ensure that we have a robust, well-trained, and reliable workforce to fill critical positions in the field, and chief among them are our nurses. The government of Guam has long acknowledged this tenet of human resources by establishing the recruitment and retention incentives that will be enhanced through this bill, aligning it specifically with the goal to enhance our local pool of nurses. Again, for our local pool of nurses. Nurses are the frontline heroes of our healthcare system, providing essential medical services and support to patients across our island. However, the challenges of recruitment and retention in this critical profession are well documented. By allocating these funds to this Department of Administration program, we are addressing the urgent need to attract and retain skilled nursing professionals in the government, thereby enhancing the quality of health care services available to the most vulnerable in our community. Investing in this program will not only help to fill existing vacancies, but also to ensure that we retain our experienced and dedicated nursing staff. Once again, Mr. Chair, I will stress that a stable and a robust nursing workforce is essential for the delivery of high-quality health care, patient safety, and overall public health outcomes desired by our government's health experts. Mr. Chair, I hope this committee can receive more details from, I was hoping the Department of Administration would be here on how these investments will strengthen our healthcare system and support for our nursing workforce. I know GMH is here, and I thank them and the attorney here for this measure, and I hope to hear from them.
Thank you, Madam Vice. For my colleagues and for the listening audience, Department Administration and the BBMR were invited to this hearing.
Did they have a...
They just didn't show up. So we'll just move along. I'd ask now the folks on the panel, if they'd like to speak. I know that we have Jordan, you're listed, and I think Ian, whichever one. Please feel free to testify.
I'll let Lillian go first on this one.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon again. Senator San Agustin, Chairman on the Committee of Operations and Appropriations, Vice Speaker Tina Muñoz, Senator Tom Fisher, and Senator Tello. Again, thank you for this opportunity, and equally important, thank you for crafting this legislation that will then allow us additional funding, especially in terms of our nursing recruitment and retention incentives that will really be very helpful. So with my testimony, with the ongoing perennial nursing shortage, at the national level as well as here, but more so at the national level, many hospitals and major health systems offer much higher salaries, sign-on bonuses, and other pay incentives. Thus, many of our GMHA and other Guam nurses leave the island. Legislative support, such as this one, can assist our hospital in some of our recruitment and retention efforts that will help us retain our nurses and recruit more to reduce the reliance of costly travel staffing agencies, and moreover, maintain and grow services at GMH to keep up with our community needs. Today, GMHA remains the only public hospital on island that serves all patient populations, to include the maternal child health, commonly referred to as the MCH population. The MCH service provided at GMH includes the labor and delivery, the OB ward, which is the post-delivery, postpartum care unit, the nursery, the neonatal intensive care, which is our NICU, the pediatrics and our pediatric intensive care, which is our PICU nursing units. With these and numerous other traditional inpatient and outpatient care services, as well as other specialty services, such as cardiology, discharge planning, gastroenterology, which is a new specialty that we just started with the welcoming of Dr. P.J. Muñoz, and he's been very, very busy. And the patients and the community are just very, very pleased that we do have this specialty now available on island. We also have infection control and prevention, interventional radiology, nursing informatics, pulmonology, quality and performance improvement, and wound care. We need to preserve and retain the current and remaining expert and seasoned nurses, at the same time continue to recruit more nurses. Additional funding from this proposed legislation of Bill number 302-37 will certainly help incentivize the experienced and expert nurses to remain at the hospital, become mentors, and train the novice nurses to become the best and expert nurses that they can be. Thereby, we continue to grow and build our nursing capacity. This incentive appropriation can be used to support more training for nurses, especially with all the modern and ever-changing trends in healthcare. There are always new medications, new medical and surgical procedures, new treatment modalities, as well as new and emerging diseases that the nurses need to learn and be proficiently skilled in their nursing practice. And in today's high-tech world, many different and new medical equipment are introduced into the delivery of bedside patient care. Equipping our nurses with more and updated knowledge and psychomotor skill sets gives them the tools and the confidence they need to provide the quality and safe patient care in these specialty areas and in all areas of the hospital. Funding can also support the cost of recruitment services for permanent placement hires, which we strive to take the place of short-term and costly travel nurses. There are companies who can help recruit permanent employees from both foreign and stateside for longer employment terms. Investing in longer-term employees versus short-term travel nurses can lead to nurses who are more engaged with the hospital organization and consistency in quality and care for our patients. Resorting to travel nurse agencies is extremely costly, which we experience every day, and so we're trying to really taper the reliance of the travel nurses. Not that we don't like them, it's just that it is costing us quite a bit. As the nature of hospital nursing practice is complex, demanding, fast-paced, patients' conditions can abruptly change and or deteriorate and can result in an extremely stressful work environment. Additional funding, such as the incentive appropriation, will help us launch programs that will focus on taking care of the well-being of our nurses and other support programs to decrease burnout. These programs attract nurses to jobs with employment packages that include promoting the health and well-being of our employees. This issue and the need of these nurses was clearly made evident in a study by the American Nurses Association. Burnout is very high with our nursing population, and in the healthcare too. GMHA is in need of about up to 80 nurses to replace the travel nurses and maximize services in all nursing units. We see hospitals in our community and across our nation investing top dollar for recruitment and retention incentives and initiatives. Funding such as this is very valuable in our ongoing efforts to recruit, retain, and grow our island's nursing resources. Just to share some comments and thoughts from our nursing administration leadership, the reason why these numbers matter is that we are the one and only public hospital on island. We are the only community hospital serving all patient populations, and that decision makers must recognize if our capabilities are keeping up with our community's needs and demands for hospitalization services. And then ongoing recruitment and retention plans are to support our unprepared individuals for NCLEX review and testing. We have individuals on our island that have completed a nursing program, but they have difficulty passing the NCLEX. But when we do NCLEX review, structured and organized NCLEX review, they become successful in passing the NCLEX. So this is some of the incentive, the money that we can use for this, from this funding, that we can then have these NCLEX review courses. I've mentioned earlier offering employee contracts to decrease the cost of travel nurses. Our nursing leaders at the hospital have been very, very successful converting about 15 of the travel nurses to become become employees through a contract. So we continue to work on those, but this again, incentive will help us, will support that. We started a residency program for the ICU, and then we're also extending it to the NICU and the PICU, which has been kind of successful. We had crisis with the recruiting, retaining nurses in the ICU, but when we implemented some of the incentive programs, we now have kind of eliminated that crisis in the ICU, but we're branching it over to the NICU and to the PICU. So again, the funding for these incentive programs will really help. And so these are just some of the thoughts and the ideas and the strategies that we have implemented. But the additional funding that we will get from this, hopefully we will get from this Section 30, definitely will help us. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Can we get a copy of your testimony?
Yes, sir. Once I finalize it, I was just quickly doing it this today.
Okay, thank you. But thank you for your testimony.
And I will submit it to you. Yes, thank you.
Jordan, are you going to say anything?
I was just going to add a couple thoughts. She's comprehensively done it from the nursing angle. And just to reference something Senator Titigree said about lawyers as well, I do think we just have difficulty recruiting and retaining professionals across this island. I've done some work in trying to deal with lawyer shortages and other things, and I regularly get questions at my current job about what we can do to recruit doctors and nurses. And I know at a previous hearing I was at, Senator Titigree even talked about the loss in population on Guam within the last several years, her and Senator Brown. And I think part of that is due to a loss in the professionals that are attracted to higher salaries or lower costs of living stateside. I know that that sometimes weighs on my calculus in life as well, but I also wake up every morning trying to do my public service. And so any measure that we can do to recruit and attract professionals to this island, nurses, doctors, lawyers, of any age, but particularly younger ones that will be here and be here for several decades and generations, is a really important thing that we need to do for this island and really focus on.
Thank you. I will save you to the end. Senator Fisher, do you have any questions for the panel? No questions. Senator Titigree, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Lillian. You had quite a bit to say, and that testimony would have helped us, so that I can ask a couple questions, because you were jumping from one thing to another, and so I'm looking forward to looking at your testimony and seeing really what the challenge is. Well, other than it's obvious there's a shortage in professionals, as mentioned, and but I was looking at this. Lillian, can you give me From the time that we started giving raises to nurses, I think it was around right after COVID, like 2021, we started implementing raises to the nurses. We started off with, I think it was a 17%. Did that? 15, okay, 15% that actually stayed into place. So can you go down the line, because we're looking at a 15% increase in salary, or was that just an incentive, and then the 22% was next, or was there another one in between the 22 and versus the 15?
The 15% was from the DOA when they did the study, and that was implemented in August of 2021. Yes, we implemented the 15% salary increase. It was a base pay increase. Unfortunately, it still did not really match or meet the average salary in the mainland. Then also still competition with local health agencies and health facilities, and so we still lost nurses. Some of them also went into travel nursing because they saw how, the salaries were. And so we continued to lose the nurses despite that 15% increase in August. And as I reported, that there was that 1 year we recruited 44 nurses in 1 year, but we lost about 70 nurses, throughout that 1 year. So it really still is a challenge to recruit and retain our nurses. This recent one that just went into effect, the 18% that started in April, it went into effect April 1. We continued to lose. April 1 this year.
So there was an 18% increase on April 2020. So there was a 15% increase.
2021, and then
now
18%
so,
April 2024.
Okay, 18% in 2024.
Correct.
So far there's been a 23% increase in nurses' salary, right, to try and recruit them. And they were mentioning, too, that in the public health testimony that was provided, it says part of the dwindling workforce can be attributed to practicing nurses retiring. But another argument can also be that nurses' wages. But, there are so many variables as to why we're losing them. But Guam is not the only jurisdiction. You're seeing the shortage of professionals everywhere, actually. And nurses, especially in the medical field. New York, California, all of a sudden everybody is deciding to retire or go to a new profession. So, some places actually give nurses the same amount of money as they would pay a doctor, if not even more. And I believe that's in New York. I don't know if Guam can afford that, but we're doing everything we can. I think, though, one of the incentive, of course, is the helping them with their education and paying for that. But we had legislation earlier that is attributing to some of this decline in our nurses when that bill passed in the 36th Guam legislature that allowed local nurses to transfer. Remember that bill? It was Mary Torres's bill. And it gave the ability for nurses to leave Guam through I think there was this one, not reciprocity, but it pretty much did. Certain states, I think it was like 38 states, that they can actually have their license here and then have...
That was the compact nurse licensure?
That's it, the compact one, yes, yeah.
Right.
And I know you testified not in favor of it because it's another avenue for us to lose our nurses here. And unfortunately, we actually saw a couple of those nurses take advantage of that and leave island because of it. When we create legislation that encourages nurses, they have the ability to go off island real quickly and work somewhere else. It doesn't help our cause at all. I appreciate you testifying, against it when you provide that testimony. But I just wanted to make it clear, of course, like I've told everybody else, that, this is Section 30 money that may, according to BBMR, come into play. And then it was also mentioned the nursing recruitment retention incentives, which is through the Department of Administration. that oversees this. And they say that also in the law, it says salary schedule 3-year review. The Director of Administration shall meet annually with the Guam Nurses Association Commission on Nursing Leadership to address recruitment, retention, incentive for nurses. The salary schedule for nurses shall be reviewed by the Director of Administration every 3 years and upgraded as needed. The salary for each of the nursing classifications in the government of Guam shall be competitive with the national average. So based on 6229-2, salary schedule 3-year review, when was the last time that this was implemented, the review?
Thank you for that, for bringing that point, Senator. As mentioned earlier, DOA, when they did their study, and they implemented it in 2021,
that was
and
when
then
the
they did
last time?
another review, and so they just did it another 3 years later, which is 2024. So
Okay.
they've done their diligence and they've done their work to continue reviewing salaries of nurses.
And when they did this, was there any funding that was was given to this increase? I mean, so you received the 15% and the 18%, a total of 23% in the last 3 years. Did you receive the funding for this for your nurses?
We rely on our operational funds.
Okay.
Yes.
And it was able to, you were able to meet that 23% increase in the last 3 years to the nurses
We
currently?
fulfilled it in 2021, and so
Okay.
now that it just recently
fulfilled it
implemented,
recently.
we are fulfilling it, but
Okay. And
it
then
is taxing our financial
Okay, and then-
coffers, so, because it is costing us $2.3 million every pay
That was my
period
next question, thank you.
to cover.
How much was this 18% increase costing the government of Guam? And you said 2.3.
For us, because we're paying, the increase went into effect for RNs,
Just
LPNs, and
GMH,
nurses
right?
aides, and nurses aides also.
Okay.
They're part of that.
This is just GMH, right?
Correct. This is just
Because we're
GMH.
not even talking about public health.
I don't know.
And we're
I
not
don't.
even talking about the nurses that are at the schools.
DOE, correct.
Or DOE.
Right.
So it's
Or
just
behavioral
2.3.
health.
Right, or behavioral wealth, exactly, so 2.3. And you did receive 2.3 for this increase? Is it part of
Every
your?
pay period, that's what's costing us, and
Okay.
so we're paying for it. Yes, ma'am.
And you incorporated that in the budget bill, correct?
Yes, ma'am, for
Okay.
2025, correct.
So did you request for this 900,000?
No, ma'am, it's a gift. So
Okay,
we
so
welcome this gift.
900,000?
No, we
Okay.
didn't, but we thank.
And this would go directly to DOA, right?
That's where it's going, is what I understand.
To go to DOA for this incentive, so it's basically like building the pot up, for the next 3 years, maybe, if anything, or maybe this funding is really not needed for the next review, which is in 3 years, correct?
That's what the law says, that the DOA
Because you've
will
already
do the review.
you've already asked for the money for this additional 18% in your budget bill.
We requested it, yes.
Already, it's in there.
In the
Okay.
25 budget, fiscal year 25.
Okay, so, okay, so maybe it's something, I truly believe in, helping the nurses, bringing more of the professionals and keeping them here on Guam. That's never been a question. I don't think any of us want to see more nurses or professionals leaving this island. We've gone from 175,000 people in 2020 down to 155, as population. So I'm sure we don't want to see any more people leave. But then again, this 900,000 is going to be sitting in an account for the next review in 3 years, which you just said to us was already done on April 2024 for 18% increase for the nurses. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Roy, do you have any questions before I proceed to the author? Author, you have questions and closing, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First, thank you to Director Lillian and to Attorney Jordan for being here and presenting in support of this bill. Mr. Chair, I'd be remiss if I didn't note that also presenting written testimony and said that she really wanted to be here, but she had a scheduled appointment, was Acting Director Therese Areola from the Department of Public Health and Social Services. She did note for the record that she was in support of this measure, and we want to thank Acting Director Areola for her support as she detailed in her testimony the need for this funding and did some comparisons. So I'd ask that this written testimony be appended to the journal. Also, I'd like to ask a couple of questions to Ms. Lillian, and if you can you detail some of the differences in quality and cost of locally hired nurse versus a travel nurse? And how often do cultural differences, especially with our underserved communities, affect the morale of travel nurses who may have not served in settings that have as many patients of color or speak English or as a second language? So are there any differences in that?
In terms of how we pay the travel nurses?
No. As how it's, how the differences between the locally hired nurses and the travel nurses, but also is there a fill of the travel nurses? Is there a curveball that based on the cultural differences and the cultures that are through? You know, we're ethnically diverse, and there's a lot of customs and cultures, and how do they react to that?
For the most part, what I'm getting is that these travel nurses really like it here. They feel very welcomed, and so unlike other places in the hospital in the United States, where some of them are not treated well, they're not welcome, they're kind of resentful because they're getting paid higher salary. Yeah. But our nurses here are very welcoming because it's the help. It's the help that they need. However, you know, these nurses, because they're so used to traveling from one hospital to another, one place, one location to another, with different sets of values, different culture, they adapt pretty well, and they work with our staff. You know, it's just that sometimes it takes a while to orient them when they first come on board. And so the expectation of our, you know, home nurses here are, you know, I guess homegrown nurses or our nurses who are employed by the hospital, it takes them some time to orient them. By the time they orient them and all that, they get another batch, a new nurse, a new travel nurse. So it can put a strain on our nurses here, but still they welcome the help because we really need them. Does that answer the question, Senator?
I just wanted to have you state that for the record and see what has been going on with the integration. We talked about the nurse licensure compact, and that was an opportunity not to take away from the nursing community here, but to add. It just gives an opportunity for our nurses and nurses around the nation to be able to travel back and forth without having to go through all the prerequisites of testing and all that. But because of the experience and because of the expertise, we can study there, we can work there, and they can work here. So,
right.
Yeah. So
that's the advantage of that compact nurse licensure.
Compact, yes. So, you know, even with the current pay scale for nurses, do you believe additional incentives can help for those who are considering retirement to stay on board a little longer, or to compensate those who have attained specializations and certifications but may not qualify for promotions under the current personnel rules and regs? What are your thoughts on that?
May not qualify for promotion on kind of...
So again, it's like considering, it says, even with the current pay scale for nurses, do you believe additional incentives can help for those who are considering retirement to stay on board a little longer, or to compensate those who have attained specializations and certifications but may not qualify for promotions under the current personnel rules and regs?
Okay, I'm not clear
and
on
as
that,
far
may
as
not
nurses,
qualify, but they are getting specialty pay, like the ICU nurses and the emergency room nurses. Once they, and also the other ones who get national certification, they take an exam in a national organization. They successfully pass that certification examination, because then it shows, you know, it validates their specialty knowledge, the additional specialized knowledge for that particular area of practice, like such as neonatal intensive care unit. You know, it takes special knowledge and special talent to really take care of those critically ill neonates. And so when they take an examination and they pass it, they get certification pay, 15%, on top of what they're already earning on top of the salary that their base pay that they got, 18% an increase. And then they also get another work differential for working in the hospital versus those who work in a different setting in other agencies. The nurses get an additional 25% incentive pay for working. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, so maybe I want to go back to having nurses who want to retire and is there a need for incentive pays, or based on their retirement, there's also provision usually in every fiscal budget year that gives them the opportunity to work again.
Yes,
but
they
on
do.
a level. So do you think there's an additional need for more incentive pay, or can we work with what is already existing today as it relates to nurses that retire?
Do you want to answer that?
I can fill in a little bit on this. I think that there's always a need for some additional incentives, but with our nurses nearing retirement, we have been getting, I say, a little bit more creative with arrangements with them. Some of them have come back as retired nurses for the reemployment that you can get in certain professions. We have also transitioned some of them from full-time employment to part-time employment, either part of the year or part of the week, depending on their personal circumstances. So we are trying to work with these nurses to find arrangements that will keep them working for GMH, but also accommodate their desire for some retirement without losing them completely to retirement.
If I may add to,
yes, please.
Madam Speaker, Vice Speaker, those nurses who retire and come back, because the law says we can bring them back, but not as full-time employees. We bring them in as unclassified part-time employees, meaning they don't really earn the benefits of annual leave accrual, sick leave accrual, but the pay they get is pretty much comparable. And then on top of that, they still get also the differential pay when they work. Just like the regular employees who are not retired, as retired nurses, they get those additional pay. If they work the weekends, they get weekend differential pay. If they work the night shift, they work the night shift differential pay. If they have certification, they get certification pay.
And I thank you very much, both of you, for that testimony, because I really appreciate trying to understand the need, and if there's more that we can do to assist in working these incentives, like you said, right? Creative, stepping outside the box, seeing what else we can do, because we all know, especially not just here in Guam, but around the nation, there's a shortage of nurses, maybe even around the world, because nurses are needed everywhere. And yes, everybody's pooling, right, to see how they can get that expertise to their area. And if we can get creative and think and provide for them, whether it be incentives, whether it be working with them being able to come back after retirement and still getting some of those extra incentives, then yeah, let's make sure that those are enforced and those are kept. And if there's anything new that we can add, then don't hesitate to let us know, so that we can support those efforts. So thank you very much. Again, Mr. Chair, I want to thank the panel for being here today, but also for the written testimony that was provided by the Acting Director of Public Health, Ms. Teresa Arriola, and also a message from Mr. Burns saying that he would send in testimony. He apologized. He was at a scheduled meeting and wanted to make sure that he said that a testimony will be in to provide support for this measure. So I extend my ndunkalula sizuas masi, and I'm very confident that we can substantially strengthen our nursing workforce ability to deliver exceptional care and support for our community. So thank you, and God bless you guys for coming and supporting the efforts of this legislation and to help our nurses out. Sizuas masi.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending. On bill number 302-37, there being no one else to testify, we will call this meeting heard and adjourned. This bill heard and adjourned at 4:23. We will now proceed to the next bill. Bill number 303-37, an act to appropriate $1 million from the Section 30 revenues to Guam Community College for the WICHE PSEP. And will the panel members, thank you for being patient. Please have a seat, and I'd ask the Vice Speaker to please give her opening statement on the last bill for today.
Cedros Masi again, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to speak on this bill and for you to put it on to the public hearing today, this afternoon. I would like to take the time to reiterate that as we consider the allocation of Section 30 funds for fiscal year 2025, it is crucial to recognize the projected increase in revenue to approximately $80 million. With this increase, I believe it is imperative that this body prioritize investments in public safety, health, and education. And Mr. Chair, the WICHE, which is the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education Professional Student Exchange Program, scholarships play a vital role in our longstanding goal to create better opportunities for homegrown talent who are interested in a career in medicine. WICHE offers for undergraduate and graduate degrees those enrolled in the PSEP program, which is the Professional Student Exchange Program, enjoy substantial savings anywhere between $35,700 to about $139,800 or $140,000 over the duration of a health degree study, according to the organization, when enrolled in participating in colleges and universities, and this is about 160 universities within the West Coast. As the Commission has stated about the real-world concerns addressed through the PSEP, quote, with out-of-state tuition for some healthcare programs, often exceeding resident tuition by over 300%, this can be daunting for tomorrow's healthcare professionals. It may saddle them in debt, force them to leave their community for more lucrative opportunities, or discourage them from pursuing a passion to heal. In addition, to help underscore the return of our government's investment in the 2023-2024 academic year, Guam students, Mr. Chair, saved more than $1.5 million through the undergraduate and graduate tuition programs offered through WICHE. The appropriation of $1 million to the Guam Community College for the WICHE's Professional Student Exchange Program, which is PSEP, scholarships underscores our commitment to enhancing education opportunities and workforce development on the island. These funds complement a proposal to invest in this proposal during the upcoming academic year, which I hope you will hear soon, Mr. Chair, with another round of infusion of capital in fiscal year 2025. This appropriation directly supports our students pursuing degrees in fields essential to Guam's future prosperity and resilience. Mr. Chair, as a former member of the GEB, I know from the Guam Educational Board, I know you agree in this sentiment. Education is the cornerstone for our island's growth and prosperity. WICHE's PSEP benefits offer invaluable incentives that bridge the affordability gap that can make all the differences in our promising young adults who want to spend their careers healing the sick. The disciplines offered for Guam students can fill gaps in the medical services offered here at home, including dentistry, allopathic medicine, occupational therapy, optometry, osteopathic medicine, pharmacy, physical therapy, podiatry, and veterinary medicine. You know that, Mr. Chair, all specialties, 10 different disciplines in this field. By investing in programs like WICHE's PSEP, we not only empower our youth with the tools they need to succeed, but we also strengthen our island's economy through education and workforce development. This appropriation will enable more students to pursue their professional dreams without the burden of exorbitant tuition costs. It will ensure that our students have the support they need to succeed and return to Guam as highly qualified professionals who can contribute to the health and well-being of our island. So, Mr. Chair, I look forward to hearing the testimony from the Guam Community College and others on how this appropriation will help the educational opportunities and enrich our workforce here. Thank you for allowing me to express my support for this initiative. And I hope my colleagues will support the efforts. I do know, Mr. Chair, and I see it right here, that WICHE has sent a letter, Miss Demery K. Makilau. She is the president. Since the inception of WICHE into Guam, the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education, Guam has realized the savings of over 1.5, 1.3 for years since I became speaker, 2019. We have literally each year realized savings of over $1 million plus. And with this added legislation, we're looking at literally leading 9 students who've completed the WICHE program to continue their education in this discipline. So we are hoping that that my colleagues will support this effort and bring the true specialties that are needed for Guam to Guam, but the local community to go back, do their schooling back there, and come home. And with that, I must also add that there is, when they return, if they avail this program, they will too have to do the service, the payback service to the community. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Speaker. That being said, we have 2 to testify. We have both from GCC. We have John and we have Gina, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it's ladies first. Gina, you're it.
Yes. Hafa, my name is Gina Tadella, and I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs at Guam Community College. Thank you so much for providing me with an opportunity to share the written testimony of the President of Guam Community College, Dr. Mary Okada, in favor of Bill number 303-37. Hafa, Chairman San Agustin, Vice Speaker Munya Barnes, Senator Taitagui, Senator Kanata, Senator Fisher. My name is Mary Okada, and I serve as the President and CEO of Guam Community College. Thank you for allowing me to testify today on behalf of the Guam Community College in full support of Bill number 303-37, an act to appropriate $1 million from Section 30 revenues to Guam Community College for the WICHE PSEP, the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education's Professional Student Exchange Program. Through 17 GCA Chapter 54, the Barada Act, Guam Community College is designated as the Guam Office for Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education Professional Student Exchange Program. WICHE is a regional interstate compact established to help residents in Western states and territories address higher education and workforce development issues distinct to the region. The WICHE region includes Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oregon, South Dakota, Utah, Washington, Wyoming, and the U.S. Pacific Territories and freely associated states. The Guam WICHE PSEP office was established to offer scholarship funding support for aspiring medical professionals who, upon completion of their programs, would be required to return to Guam and fulfill their obligation to practice in their respective fields for a minimum of 5 years. Through Guam's inclusion in the WICHE PSEP program, residents of Guam who pursue their degree from WICHE schools will qualify for resident tuition, significantly reducing the cost for the people of Guam. We want to acknowledge and thank Vice Speaker Munya Barnes and Senator Shelton, who serve on the WICHE Legislative Advisory Committee, Senator San Agustin and Senator Blas for their work to include Guam in this program. The Guam WICHE PSEP office has been operational since January 2023, establishing the process for receiving and qualifying applicants for funding support in alignment with the PSEP program. We are happy to report that in the first round of applications, 5 of 9 applicants affirmed their commitment to WICHE schools, qualifying them to receive tuition assistance. 3 of the applicants will be pursuing their degrees in pharmacy, 1 in allopathic medicine and 1 in osteopathic medicine. Initial funding for the 5 applicants who confirmed their interest in the PSEP program amounts to $88,675 for their first year of studies and upwards of $354,700 for the full duration of their postgraduate studies. We anticipate that applications will increase significantly as more candidates consider WICHE schools to pursue their respective degrees. Students who qualify for WICHE PSEP funding can save between $34,100 to $133,600 on tuition and fees over the duration of their studies. As I stated earlier, the Guam Community College stands in full support of the $1 million appropriation to seed the program. In addition to the appropriation provided through Bill number 303-37, the college is developing a program to raise additional funds to support the growth of the program. We support the effort to increase the number of local doctors who return to practice on Guam. We thank you for your continued support of the Guam Community College's mission to advance career and technical workforce development for Guam and the Micronesian region. Sincerely, Mary A. Wayakata, EDD, President and CEO. Thank you.
Thank you. John, do you have any testimony? No, you're good, right? Okay. Madam Vice Author, I would save you for that. Senator Kanatha, do you have a question? None? Senator Fisher? None? Senator Titlegy, do you have any question, ma'am?
I do, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And Hafaday, John, it's always good to see you. So my question is, with this program, are you still paying a dues of $78,000 a year for your dues for the WICHE program?
Point of information, Mr. Chair, on that question. The Office of Insular Affairs has picked up the commission fees.
Okay, what is your first name again?
Gina.
Jeanette.
Yes.
Jeanette, so I'm going to ask you that question. Do you still pay for the $78,000 for dues?
No.
Okay. So the next question I have is regarding the amount that has been set aside for this program from GCC in your budget bill, the budget that you provided us. Has any money been set aside for that?
No.
John, nothing?
None for the scholarships.
So why didn't GCC put money aside for this program?
I believe by the provisions of the bill, it allows us to seek funding support from the community and to raise funds for
well, if I'm not mistaken, there are 2 programs, correct? One for the private sector who, if an individual can sponsor someone, right?
Yeah.
And then they come back and work for that company privately.
Yes.
So that's the seeking of funding. But on the government end, there's that second section that allows the government of Guam to provide the funding for this individual to seek education off island and then return and then come back, and I believe it's 5 years?
Yes, 5 years.
5 years. Is that, by the way, is that the same for the private sector too? Is it a 5-year
Yes.
okay, requirement? Okay.
Yes.
So this is only for the medical side, right? There's nothing for like attorneys or engineers or architects. Okay.
Purely medical.
So my next question is, why then did GCC not incorporate any funding for this program in their budget bill again?
So this is not an operations cost for us, and so the college has. Right now we are building a program to raise funds through the community, through the, like you said, the sponsorships that are
private
sponsorships. But since this is not an operations cost to us, the money would go straight to the actual scholarships. So it's not part of our operations budget.
But GCC could have requested the legislature and put in their budget to set some, funding, government funding, because this money is coming from the general fund, so, and that's where your operations money is coming from, the general fund. So why did you not request for money for this program in your budget? So the plan, I guess you answered it by saying the plan was just to generate revenue based on donations to the school to cover this program?
Direct
No.
for scholarships for
Yeah,
the
well,
individuals, yes.
and just to be clear, our focus was on building the system that would allow us to receive the community support. That doesn't mean that we're against, or it was an effort not to take funding from the government, but our efforts initially were to stand up the program, connect with WICHE to make sure that the students that want to go there have a smooth transition in, and also to then start to build that community support for it.
And I think because, you know, we always say that community is our middle name. We work with a lot in partnership with different organizations throughout the island. So it's something that we do well. So I think that was one of the reasons why we wanted to capitalize on those partnerships to help these students get the scholarships so they can finish their education and come back to Guam.
Yeah, you definitely do that very well when it comes, with construction, and mechanics, things like that. You do very well in that area. There's no doubt that GCC has made great strides and continue to bring to us a great audit report, and moving forward on any initiatives they have, they usually are very good at achieving it. But it always makes me wonder, the money that's requested in this legislation, or not requested, but by the way, did you ask for this $1 million?
Not in a,
Okay,
no, we
so
didn't.
nobody requested it. Okay, so, well, I'm sure that, whenever the money goes to GCC, it's spent very wisely. We always keep a tab on that, and I know President Okada is very good and has such a great reputation on doing so. There was one. Is there a waiting list for this program? Do you have somebody in the sidelines waiting to take advantage of this?
We don't have a waiting list at the moment.
We do have 5
That-
people who have signed up and have expressed interest in going to WICHE schools.
To go into which school? Based on the medical side is a...
Yes, so there are
10 areas.
There are the 5, 3 of them are pharmacy, 1 is osteopathic medicine, and 1 is an allopathic medicine.
When you mentioned pharmacy, that there's a lot of private pharmacies on Guam, Rexall, as well as some other pharmacies. Are any of them know of those individuals who are interested in going to pharmaceutical school and, supporting them and,
Yes.
like you said, on the private sector? So they're very well
Yes,
with that.
actually, there is one organization that will be sponsoring one of the pharmacy students.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah.
That's good news. Okay, well, I know you've been here from the very beginning. I thank you for your patience, for coming to testify and still having a great disposition as you're giving your testimony and dealing with it. Be careful going out the door. There's a huge crowd out there for the next public hearing. But again, you must realize that this money is a maybe kind of thing, and that this is excess revenue that we are really not sure we're going to get, at all. But if you foresee that there is money that's needed, just, put in your budget, request for it. But I greatly appreciate GCC's budget this year. They didn't ask for anything. They status quo. That's amazing. Now that's thinking outside the box. Maintaining that, amount for another year is really speaks well about what GCC is doing, making do with what they have.
Thank you.
And appreciate that and all your hard work.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tyree. Madam Vice Speaker, questions and closing, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the presenters who were here this afternoon to GCC for their testimony. I want to thank WICHE for that. And I want to just say that this bill is highlighting the significance in expanding educational opportunities and nurturing for Guam's leaders. And as noted by the President, the Barada Act, Barada means to return, and it was an act that we felt in the previous legislature, as I was the author of that, was a way to work closely with WICHE, which is the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education, to be a part of this WICHE program. And we pay a commission every year, and through that commission, paying the dues every year, Guam, CNMI, all of Micronesia, Palau, and RMI, which are the island nations of the Blue Pacific, they have an opportunity, because we pay those dues, have an opportunity to take part in the interstate reduced tuition, which gives families from all our island nations and Guam, more specifically, the opportunity for parents to save on tuition rates for their students. This professional student exchange program was an additional opportunity. The Barada Act was for them to come home after the undergraduate program to look at the 10 disciplines that I mentioned, for them to get additional support, resources to help them into these specialty positions, so that if they get that support and resources after they graduate or after they finish their program, they can come home and serve their island for 5 years. And just like the Pro-Tech and other programs at the university, it's just a way to help them come home after their studies and serve their community here. Another good program, GCC was very willing to accept this facilitation to house the program with WICHE. WICHE has been very instrumental in standing up this program. Also, with the Department of Behavioral Health, WICHE also has another program to help build upon our counselors and train our folks to be in the industry. And as it relates to getting the educational expertise for these different medical disciplines, that we have an opportunity to give resources to these students so they can garner these disciplines and get the expertise and come home and serve our folks as pharmacists, as veterinarians, as you know, the other 10 disciplines that are on this list. So, Mr. Chair, it's really important to know that as we continue to work closely with WICHE and our community college who houses this program, and I'm glad to say that based on the continued work that we have been able to work closely with the Office of Insular Affairs to give us the last couple of years the grant to pay for the fees so that we can give more back and work on these additional programs. So WICHE has been doing great programs here, and we want to continue to see how else we can bring more specialties to Guam. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope that my colleagues support this efforts, and I thank you for the opportunity to hear this bill today, and to thank the panel members for presenting their testimony, and those who couldn't make it that provided written testimony, including WICHE, the president of WICHE, Demery Makila.
Thank you, Madam Vice Speaker. I want to thank everyone for attending the hearing and providing feedback and suggestion. Bill number 303-37 COR. Public hearing is now adjourned. The time now is 4:48. And please drive safe because the riders are here this afternoon, okay? And they got their motor running. Thank you. Take care.